get to it.
Cole Johnson here, Cole Sports. What can I say about this program? It has many segments. Going in, upon further review, adult of the week, and many other segments as well. This is a show that is for you. So join me, 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific, Monday through Saturday, SportsStarChannel.com. Cole Sports.
Tired of the same sports shows with pre-written lines? Tired of sports shows that are scared to say what's really on their mind? Then tune into Championship Circle, hosted by Cordell Bowser, one of the newest sports shows of the new decade. Tune in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5:30 p.m. on SportsTalkChannel.com. Also can be found on Spotify, iTunes, and any other.
This is Matt Siraj, fourth-generation owner of Community Coffee. My great-grandfather named it Community, just out of appreciation and respect for his friends and neighbors. And for 100 years, our family has been about two things: great tasting coffee and great people. And as America's #1 family-owned retail coffee brand, we believe it's our responsibility to continue to give them the best tasting coffee experience possible. And it's why we're excited for you to discover your new favorite blend. Look for Community Coffee at a store near you.
We just can't get enough of the Astros and the return of Bron's sexual confessions. Cole Sports presents On the Date.
Welcome to Cole Sports. You have entered the zone called sports on another level. And now, here's your host, Cole Johnson.
Well, thank you so much, Spike. Cole Johnson on the mic. On the Daily, presented by Cole Sports, is coming at you. And either you've downloaded this, and I thank you, or you're listening to the RTF Sports Network on RTFSportsNetwork.com, and I thank you for that as well. And let's get right down to it. Topic of the day, please. So the Bucks didn't really do anything, and I really do mean they didn't do anything this past Sunday. So they caught wind of the Washington Wizards, and they played a game Sunday night, and they lost that game Sunday night. And with that loss on Sunday night, the Bucks clinched a playoff berth. Yes, I know. It's 2 months before we have to even concern ourselves with the NBA playoffs, yet the Bucks has clinched a playoff spot. Now, why am I even saying this? It's quite simple. With that loss by the Wizards, the Bucks on February 23rd became the fastest team in NBA history to clinch a playoff spot. I'll say it again. With the Wizards' loss on Sunday night, the Bucks became the fastest team. The 2020 Bucks became the fastest team to clinch a playoff berth in NBA history. Now, I know you're saying, wait a minute, 86 Celtics, any of the Showtime Lakers, pretty much, 88 possibly, or even 85 Lakers? You mean to tell me the 2000 or the 2001 Lakers, the 2008 Celtics, the 2013 Heat, even any of the Warriors, the 2016, 17, 18, 19 Warriors, they didn't clinch faster than February 23rd? Even the 1972 Lakers or the 1970 or 73 Knicks, or even the 89 or 90 Pistons, none of those teams clinched faster? That's exactly what I'm talking about. No team in NBA history has clinched a playoff berth faster or sooner on the calendar than the Milwaukee Bucks. Their record at present stands at 48-8. Now, the previous mark was February 25th. And it was the Warriors who held that mark, the 2017 Warriors. And when you look at this Bucks team, it's held up by Giannis Antetokounmpo and a cast of other characters. And they have done wonderful. I mean, they're evoking images and waking up echoes of other teams who have started this hot and has played this well for such a long stretch. More and more people are actually starting to say and getting on the bandwagon and saying the Bucks are not only going to get out the East, but they're going to win this year's NBA championship, and they're going to hoist the Larry O'Brien Trophy in Fiserv Stadium, or I should say Fiserv Arena. So as I said, they're sitting on top of the East. They're on pace to win 70 games. And yes, that mark is extremely hallowed because there's only two other teams that have done it. We know of one. Well, actually, we know both teams, but we know of one that has recently done it. That would be the 2016 Warriors. With 73, they hold the mark for the most wins in a regular season. And that's followed by the 1996 Bulls with 72. Even though the Warriors won 73 games, it's quite fitting that the 72-10 Bulls, they would be inclined to say that has a nice ring to it. But I'm not talking about the Bulls nor the Warriors. I'm talking about the Bucks. And so they boast a league best point differential of almost 12.5 points a game. They are the best in the league in defensive rating. And they are third in offensive rating. And think of this. Net rating of 11.8. That is the best in the league. And it's nearly 5 points better than the teams that are in second, which would be the Raptors and the Lakers. All right, let's talk about what this means. All right, so you have this team. They are, how can I put this? They have the best record, not just in the East, but they have the best record in the league. So you know that they're targeting not just a playoff berth, not just a divisional crown, but they're targeting home field advantage throughout the whole playoffs. And if they keep this up, they will get that quite easily. Now, will they try for 70 wins? I would tend to think no. I don't think they want 70 wins as much as they want to have home field throughout. And I don't think they want 70 wins more than anything else. And, hopefully they will get that. And I do mean hopefully they will get that. So right now they're number one in the East. And it is by a considerable margin, actually. As we look at the standings, and we're 2 months away from the playoffs. You have the Bucks. They are the shiny team on the hill, so to speak. And as I said, they're doing it with Giannis, a crew that we pretty much don't know. It's almost like the 94 Rockets, where you knew that you had a stud in Akeem Olajuwon, and then you had these other cast of characters where you're like, but they're actually winning, and they're only doing it with one stud. That doesn't make sense. But, well, I mean, that's just how it is. So you have the Bucks. They're 8 games clear of second place. So you have the Bucks, who's the number 1 seed, followed by the Raptors. And they're battling the Celtics for the 2nd seed. And then you have a battle for home court in the first round between the Heat and the Sixers. The Pacers could make a play for the number 4 seed as well. They're only 2.5 games away from the Heat. And then you have an interesting battle for 7th seed between the Nets and the Magic. And the Magic seem to be in decent shape because they seem to have almost a 5-game lead, 4.5-game lead over the Wizards, who hold the 9th spot. And the Magic have 4 less wins in the loss column versus the Wizards. The Bucks would have to really fall to the pack hard. I just don't see it. I think they're focused, and Giannis, I really believe that he took that loss in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Bucks. Against the Raptors, highly personal. And I would too, just thinking about it. They had a 2-0 lead. They were up 2-0. They held serve at home. They almost got game 3, but they couldn't pull it out. Game 4 was the Raptors. Then they come back to 5 serve in game 5, and they control the game all the way until the 4th quarter. And then pretty much from the 4th quarter in game 5 on, that whole series was the Raptors. And it was, to me, a tale of a superstar that's learning to win and a superstar who knows how to win and gave another class as how to do it. The other being Kawhi Leonard. Now, the plus for the Bucks is they don't have Leonard to face off again this year. And it's quite possible we might see the two of them face off once more in Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics may have something to say about that as well. And so if the season were to end today, they would play the Magic in the first round, and if they were to get past them, they would host the Heat, or should say they would have the home court advantage over the Heat should they advance, or the Sixers. Now, I think more people would want to see the Sixers match up against the Bucks simply because you got Embiid versus Antetokounmpo. But you never know in these things. We still have 2 more months, but it is impressive that the Bucks have been locked in, loaded, and they just are focused on demolishing everybody in their wake. That's good, because the NBA needs more teams who are focused like that to really do the job that they were set out to do for 2020. And that is your topic of the day. Keep talking about the Astros. Now a Hall of Famer is doing the talking. Come right back. A take that you want to give to Cole, or do you want to vote for who is the Dolt of the Month for February 2020? You can call the Cole Sports Hotline or the VIP Safe Zone at 615-988-5400. 615-988-5196. That's area code 615-988-5196. We want to hear what you have to say, and if you have a topic that you want Cole to address on air, he will be glad to do it. Come on, we want to hear from you, VIP. The VIP Safe Zone is right there, and the phone number is 615-988-5196. That's area code 615-988-5196. You have tuned into the classic sports show on the planet. Cole Sports presents on the Daily. Cole Johnson here, and we're going to Jupiter, Florida. Now, leading into the break, I said Hall of Famer. I actually have to make a correction. That's actually Hall of Famer to be. And yes, Hall of Famer to be, because it was one Mr. Derek Jeter, who opined about the topic that has ruled Major League Baseball for this past month. Now, pitchers and catchers have already reported. The rest of the team is in training camp, and this was supposed to be the time that we're focused on, well, who's going to win in 2020? Which two teams are we going to see in each league represent the league of their choosing come mid to late October? That is what we were going to talk about. However, we now have to talk about the Astros sign-stealing technological scandal. And others have made their voices felt, from the Dodgers' Cody Bellinger to the Angels' Mike Trout to the Yankees' former pitcher CC Sabathia, even to the current Yankees pitcher Hashiro Matsuda. And now it is Derek Jeter's turn. Now, we were mentioning Yankees, but he's no longer a Yankee. He's retired. Of course, he played many a year for the Yankees. But right now, he is the CEO of the Marlins. And so, Jeter, one of the classiest baseball players who's ever existed, one who has steered clear of any type of controversy, and so far has done similar as a CEO and as a baseball executive. He definitely did it deftly as a player. He now is talking about the controversy that everyone is talking about in Major League Baseball. And he just wishes the subject could change. Shout out to my man, There Go BJ, have changed the subject. But we're not talking about my man's show. We're talking about Derek Jeter wanting to change the subject of talking about the Astros being the black-hatted villains. So he talked about the sign-stealing scandal in his terms as to why it's being mentioned, and should we turn the page in terms of talking about it. I'll let him describe it. Quote, "It's like a slow drip of responses coming out from everyone. You hope at some point people can just move on, but look, it's unfortunate. It's a black eye for the sport." Close quote. And that is black eye. So this is the first time that Jeter has spoken anything actually about this since the commissioner, Rob Manfred, concluded his investigation findings and ruled whatever punishment that was handed down to the Astros. Jeter went onward, and he talked further about sign stealing in general. Quote, when you talk about people trying to get an edge in baseball, I don't think that's anything new. People have been trying to do it for years. But obviously, people took it way too far. And there are penalties for it. They're paying the price. Close quote. And that's, I really believe that's where it is for me. I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, there's protocol for almost every, no, for not almost, there's protocol for every team that if you have a runner at second base, you throw signs and you disguise them, or at least you murky it up so that the opposing team can't steal them. And that was one of the points that the shortstop of the Astros, Carlos Correa, tried to mention when he was being interviewed by MLB Network in detailing the 2017 World Series and talking about when there were runners on at second, how the signs were just too difficult to steal, even if they were to try to steal them. Well, Jeter went onward to talk about the penalties that Major League Baseball has enforced and what we should do about that. Quote, regardless of what the penalties are, others are going to have their opinions on what they think should happen. You hope that over time it passes. But I'm sure this is going to sting for a while. Close quote. And yes, it is going to sting for a good minute. Now, as I said last week, and I'll link to the show notes to last week's show, and thank you, Snowman, in the morning for replaying that segment when I talked about the pound of flesh that I think MLB fan still to this moment would want. And no matter how stiff or lenient the penalty would have been, the punishment would not have been enough. And the opinions are not going to be enough either, because we're going to keep having people mentioning it over and over and over again. It's going to be almost like a sore subject, even well into the spring. And if we thought we had our fill with it now, we've only gotten started. This is month number 1. The regular season doesn't start in another couple months. So, 6 weeks. But still, we have, 5 weeks. But we'll still be hearing this. It's still going to be news. It's still going to be a subject. And teams are still going to be asked, what do you think about this? Has your team done this? What was your experience with the Astros in playing with them? You know, reporters and journalists are going to ask those questions endlessly. And I'm not even talking about the Astros. I'm just talking about just Major League Baseball players in general. They're going to be asked this question almost ad nauseum, almost to the point where I'm sure the PR personnel of their organizations are going to slide answers that each player should say. So this is not going away. What we do know is I think we have one of the elder statesmen, and I guess you could say that now, in Jeter, basically in talking to him, he's wanting to get focus on what matters most, which is his own team. However, he knows that he's going to get those questions about, well, when you played the Astros the last time, did they cheat? Have you all thought about doing anything similar in nature as to what the as to what the Astros did? Have you even encountered doing that in your own playing career, Mr. Jeter? I mean, you're going to be hearing those questions, and I'm sure he knows he's going to be hearing those questions, and he probably winces at the thought of that. But the one thing I love about Derek Jeter is that he is taking on the mantle that I mentioned in my piece last week. All eyes are on the sport of baseball. People are looking at Major League Baseball in a way that they weren't looking at them even last year. Heck, even 4 months ago. Had a great World Series, but we did not have people look at the sport in October, when normally that is when you have the most focus on the sport because the World Series is being played. We didn't have as much focus on the sport then as we do now. But that is what Jeter's reminding us all of doing. Okay, there's more eyes on the sport. There's more eyes on us. Well, let's show them what good, clean, non-cheating, non-scandal competition of baseball looks like. Let's be at our best and not at our worst. And I can tell you that Derek Jeter is more than likely one of the best candidates to show the way as to how you're supposed to win with integrity. And when I come back, speaking of winning with integrity, a guy is focused, or is he, on changing his mentality. We're going to talk NFL on the other side. Something you want to say to Cole, well, say it with your chest. Go to speakpipe.com/Cole Sports with a Z and record, speak, send. Record, speak, send. It's just that simple. Cole Sports and On the Daily want to hear from you. Record, speak, send at speakpipe.com/Cole Sports with a Z. And remember, say it with the chest. We've reached the bottom of the hour. Cole Johnson here. Cole Sports presents On the Daily is at your service. And if you listen to the RTF Sports Network on rtfsportsnetwork.com, I thank you. If you downloaded this show, I thank you, VIP. In any fashion in which you're listening to the show, I thank you. And now we started the show talking, excuse me. We started the show talking about the Milwaukee Bucks and their fortunes of clinching a playoff spot 2 months before the playoffs begin in mid-April from the NBA. And Major League Baseball, the CEO of the Marlins, Derek Jeter, weighing in reluctantly about the Astros sign-stealing scandal. And he talked also about the hopes, dreams, and aspirations for the Marlins come 2020. And speaking of hopes, dreams, and aspirations, it comes to this subject. 29-year-old linebacker for currently the Oakland, Las Vegas Raiders Vontaze Burfict was serving a 12-game suspension last year for committing yet another helmet-to-helmet hit. However, the NFL, the Shield, says, you know what? We think that you have learned your lesson, Vontaze. It's time for you to play again. So, for those who need to catch up, yes, this is the same guy who probably gave Antonio Brown, otherwise known as Antonio Clown, the shot that probably has made him look like he's been touched the last few years, in that probably the most violent playoff game I've ever witnessed. The 2015 first round, or I should say wildcard round game between the Steelers and the Bengals, where you had people just go off the field with injury. Remember, that was the same game. I'm sorry. That was a game the next year. I was going to say the same game. No, they played the next year, and Ryan Shazier was paralyzed, but that was a regular season game. It wasn't the playoffs. So, Burfict was a Raider last year, and he played 4 games for them. His season abruptly ended when he had a collision with the Colts tight end, Jack Doyle. And that collision was helmet to helmet. Crown of helmet to helmet at that. And for the troubles, he earned the longest suspension in NFL history for an on-field incident, and it was 12 games long. The agent of Vontaze Burfict, Peter Schaefer, talked to NFL Network, and this is what he had to say about Burfict's future. Quote, Vontaze has spent the entire offseason studying and learning the proper code of conduct for participation in the NFL. He has watched tape, talked with coaches and NFL experts, doing everything he can to conform his passionate play to the rules. This is a serious issue not only for Vontaze, but for all players. And he is serious about doing things the right way and being a leader. Close quote. Well, all Burfict has to do is learn not to lead with his head when he tackles. Now, I know, NFL fan and NFL player, you're going to say easier said than done, especially for you because you have not played a down in NFL. Yes, you're right. I have not played one down in the NFL, but I have played more than one down of football, and I don't mean recreational and touch football in the neighborhood. I was on teams where I saw the defensive coordinator, the linebackers coach, the defensive backs coach, and the defensive line coach teach their men to tackle with their head up. And this was 30 years ago. Not 30 minutes, not 30 days, not 30 months. 30 years ago. And they would say, don't lead with your head because you might hurt yourself, if not hurt your opponent, in leading with your head, in leading with your helmet. And far be it, you actually might miss your target if you do lead with your head. Eyes up, posture up, so you can wrap and bring down the ball carrier. I heard that so much, I memorized it. So I see your it's easier said than done, and I raise you, defensive coaches teach players to tackle with their eyes focused toward their tackling target. And you can argue with me up and down. That is fact, because I heard it far too often when I was playing myself. And if you want to ask, I was an offensive lineman. But I heard my defensive coaches say that often. And I did play on the defensive line a couple of times too. Tom Pelissero had this to say about Vontaze Burfict on Twitter. Quote, Vontaze Burfict was quietly reinstated from his suspension last month. The veteran linebacker has been working out and working in a variety of ways to clean up his play in hopes of returning to the NFL for 2020 and beyond. At NFL Network. Close quote. Well, hopefully he does clean up his act, because NFL has cited Burfict's previous violations as the reason for why he was suspended for 12 games last year. Now, okay, along with that, he was suspended 3 games in 2016 after that hit that I talked about earlier in this segment, the blow that was to Antonio Brown's head and helmet in that 2015 playoff game. Now, he had a blindside block on the Chiefs fullback Anthony Sherman in a preseason game in 2017, which earned him a 5-game suspension. And then there was a 4-game suspension he served in 2018 for violating the league's policy against performance-enhancing drugs. So needless to say, Burfict has been in the Shield's doghouse for many years. How long? Well, since entering the league in 2012, Burfict has accumulated over $5 million in fines and forfeited salary. Now, this guy was an All-American 10 years ago, and he went undrafted in 2012 before the Bengals signed him as a free agent. And that's where he played his first 7 years. Now, his best season was 7 campaigns ago, 2013, led the NFL with 171 combined tackles. And this offseason, he will become an unrestricted free agent. Now, the free agent period hasn't started. That will start in about 3 weeks. Now, do I think that Burfict has what it takes? I do. Do I also think that he will follow and clean up his act, so to speak? No. Because a lot of times I keep hearing people say, you play one way, you play one certain way, you do not change playing that certain way. And if that's the case, if a leopard don't change his spots or a tiger doesn't change his stripes, you got someone in Burfict who might not change those stripes. But hopefully he can, because we need to see him. We need to see him play. And we do need to see him play not with the intent to hurt people, and not also with the intent to incite the crowd when they boo you for your helmet-to-helmet hits, like you did when you ran off of the Lucas Oil Stadium field as a Raider. Well, enough about Vontaze Burfict. When I come back, this segment that you all want to hear. The one time I do talk about this gentleman on the whole brand after the break. If you're listening to the RTF Sports Network on RTFSportsNetwork.com, following this show, you have Snowman in the morning. Get ready to sit in your seat and be alarmed and be well informed as Snowman takes you from all things Major League Baseball to even NCAA basketball to the NBA to the NFL to even college football and all points in between. That's Snowman in the morning, weekdays 9 a.m. Eastern on the RTF Sports Network at RTFSportsNetwork.com. But don't rush off, because coming up tomorrow, we're going to have to put a pause on something. And, of course, we're going to address something in the NBA, something in Major League Baseball, and something in the NFL. Since the Combine's coming up, we might mention a couple of things about that. That's for tomorrow, and that's for the next hour. But for this hour, we're not done yet. Get ready to sip that last cup of coffee. We are on the brink of the stretch run and stretch drive for the NBA season. Now, this time last year, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was this date last year, the Lakers played the Rockets at home and they beat the Rockets, and LeBron said that he was activating playoff mode. Well, 28 days later, they deactivated Mr. James when the Lakers failed to qualify for the playoffs. This year's a different story because his team, Los Angeles Lakers, they are the number one seed and they look pretty good. They look poised to be the number one seed in the West. And things are looking up, as it was evidenced this week. But of course, we know that we have to always talk about this guy because when there's another day, there's another LeBron James conversation being brought up. So right now, let's get to it. Bronsexuals, this is your time to shine. Leg out.
In a world where partial greatness is celebrated and total greatness is shunned, there stands to be a figure on the lips of those who love him and those who hate him. The inane comparisons to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant continue and has existed since 2003. There is no end in sight, for the battle between those who unconditionally love and unconditionally hate him wages on. These are their stories. Welcome to the Bronsexual Confessions.
So Sunday, just so you know, Bronsexuals, I give you the positive too. So they played a game against the Celtics. And of course, this is the rivalry of all of the NBA. Even though it's okay, it's not really all that stellar now. Not like it was in the 80s or even the turn of last decade, but I digress. So LeBron, dribbled to the right. He was guarded one-on-one. He made a fadeaway move, hit the shot with about 30 seconds left to play. And that decided things as the Lakers split the season series with the Celtics with the win Sunday, 114-112. Now, LeBron had 29 points in that game, 9 assists and 8 rebounds. But with the good comes the, why do we have to talk about this? So Monday, as you all know, there was a ceremony. Not necessarily funeral, but really a public memorial service held for Gianna and Kobe Bryant at Staples Center. Conspicuous in possibly his absence was LeBron James, and people were asking the question, did LeBron James attend the Kobe Bryant public service? Who cares? And it just upset me to hear that, because it was like, okay, someone's trying to squeeze the turnip hard to come up with some news. Why? It was not news at all. And when I think of it, it's infuriating. However, that is not what I want to really talk about in this Bronxexual Confessions time period. So I had a conversation with a Bronxexual, and this Bronxexual was loud and proud. I mean, just very proud. But unlike most Bronxexuals, this guy was more respectful. And so he asked this question. He said, quote, "For those who are not convinced that LeBron is the GOAT," GOAT meaning greatest of all time, "is there anything he can do to change your mind? Like win one more championship, win 4 more championships, break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record?" Close quote. Now I figured that's a simple question. That's a simple ask. I have to admit that. But with that simple question, I had a simpler answer, which is, quote, "There isn't anything LeBron can do to change my mind as to him being the GOAT. The ship forever sailed on June 11th, 2011. Close quote. Now, I got pushback on that. Someone said to me, so you mean the time when LeBron, for the first time in his career, played with a real star and they had chemistry issues? And I laugh at that. Because if you're a team that's supposed to win, as he said in June of 2010 when he signed on the dotted line and he showed up in Miami with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade in their Heat uniforms, and he has a mic in his hand and he says, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7 championships. He came to win chips. He didn't come to just simply go through the motions and say, well, I think we don't have the chemistry down. Maybe we can make this year a mulligan. No. His thought process is when he signed to be on the Heat, June 2010, well, by this time next year, we're going to be hoisting up the Larry O'Brien trophy. So when I heard the chemistry talk, I said, okay, chemistry issues, that's in November and December, not June. Because June, that would have been an issue already handled. No. And meanwhile, the reason why I said June 11th, 2011, and not June 13th, 2007, was because in June 13, 2007, that was the date of Game 4 of the 2007 NBA Finals between the Spurs and the Cavaliers. And the Spurs swept the Cavaliers. No, LeBron was punching up. He was punching me on his weight class, as they say. Because remember, that was the same year where in the Eastern Conference Finals, it basically was him and a whole bunch of other people. And remember, he had Antoine Jameson and Daniel Gibson, or Booby, along with Erison Varejao as teammates. And that was the series where he scored 25 straight points and 29 out of the last 30. in a win against probably one of the most stout defensive teams that we have seen in quite some time in the Detroit Pistons. So they get past them in 6, and that was all they had. They shot as much as they could. They shot their best shot because when they got to the Spurs in 2007's NBA Finals, they met up with a team that just was too strong, too big, too fast, too skilled, and too loaded up with championship pedigree. That was just the case. So I give the 2007 season a pass. I don't really consider that anything that would hurt his GOAT status. Never did. 2011 happened. So we get to the time where he's a Heat and he ran into some adversity, not much, but some adversity in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Bulls, where the Heat got whooped in game 1 and then they stormed in games 2, 3, 4, and 5 and just gentlemen swept them completely out the playoffs. So it made you think, okay, well, I guess here it is. The coronation is about to happen. And then the first 2 games, they split it between themselves and the Mavs. And then we get to game 3. And we start to see something that was troubling. And then we saw it again in game 4. And then we saw it again in game 5. And then we saw it again in game 6. And what was the something troubling that I'm talking about? The fourth quarter in games 3, 4, 5, and 6. The money quarter. The quarter where you earn your stripes. The quarter that separates the men from the boys. The quarter that separates the elite from the, okay, you all right, superstar. And that has been said by many analysts, journalists, players, and executives. And LeBron at this time, 26 years of age, this was his 8th year in the league, so this was no excuse at all to come up and play smaller than mini-me. Yet he did. Because in each of those fourth quarters, that man scored a total of 8 points. I'll say it again. Game 3's fourth quarter, 2 points. Game 4's fourth quarter, 2 points. Game 5's fourth quarter, 2 points. Game 6's fourth quarter, 2 points. Now, you can say in game 5, I think he had a triple-double. That doesn't matter. Because when he was supposed to come up big, he came up small. So the Heat lost that series 4-2 to the Mavs. And look, in that series, Dirk Nowitzki outclassed everybody in it. So I'm not even comparing LeBron to Dirk in that series, because Dirk played out of his mind in that playoff stretch. No, LeBron played so bad. He averaged 17.8 points in that series. LeBron in that series played so bad that the 6th man for the Mavericks, Jason Terry, outplayed him. He averaged 18 points. Shot better from the field, had a better shooting percentage, played less minutes, and he outplayed LeBron. So if you ask me why I don't ever consider, why I will never consider, and why I will not change considering LeBron James to be the greatest of all time, look at games 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the 2011 NBA Finals. And there is where LeBron James's candidacy to be the greatest player of all time in the NBA died. And it is forever buried. You can whimper, you can cry, you can say foul, you can say I'm being harsh, you can say I'm being unfair, you can even call me an F-Bron Bronner. I don't care what you say. Those stats in those 4 games, especially those key 48 minutes that I just laid out for you, is the reason why I will never consider LeBron James to be the greatest basketball player who's ever played in the National Basketball Association. Because there was one moment, or I should say 4 in this case, where he came up so small that a 6th man outplayed him. The greatest player in the world was outplayed by a 6th man. That should never happen. So, I'll say a phrase that Killmonger said in Black Panther, and this is directly aimed right at you, bronsexual. Is this your king? Is this your king?
In a world where contradiction and hypocrisy exist, lies the truth to set us all free. Here is where we all get enlightened. This has been yet another installment of The Bronsexual Confessions.
If you happen to like this broadcast or any broadcast or episode that you've heard thus far, open.acast.com or shows.acast.com/on-the-daily. And that's where you have Cole Sports Presents on the Daily. And also, you can tune into this show on most major podcast directories, including Apple Podcasts. And I may move this show soon to another platform to help it out. I might. Not sure yet. I might. But it doesn't matter where you listen to me, how you listen to me, or when you do. Please just do these 3 simple things. Love yourself with your whole heart. Tell a friend to tell a friend about this particular program and enjoy the content. For the Intelligent Sportsman, I am Cole Johnson, thanking you once again for joining me on another installment of Cole Sports for your audio pleasure and on the daily.
You've been listening to Cole Sports with Cole Johnson.
We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Snowman in the Morning, coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. Got a few things to handle here, including a basketball game. Get to that in just a few moments. Want to thank everybody for listening. If you are listening, A, thank you, and B, if you're not, well, you need to hop on any of these great networks, including RTF Sports Network.com, FullPressCoverage.com, ArenaSportsNet.com, and TheInscriberMag.com. And for those of you in the Valley of the Sun, you can listen through KSRNAZ.com. And welcome to all the folks in Phoenix, Arizona. Our social media, you can follow us using the ID SNW Digital Media. That's SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and Snapchat. On tap for Hour 1, I will tell you why the best quarterback in the draft has yet to be determined. Hour 2, Transition Tuesday with Russ Williams. And Hour 3, William Morgan will stop by for a little NBA playoff chatter. Let's get right to it, shall we? I posed a question on Facebook, which tends to kind of get in trouble and tends to kind of get a little pushback against me, but I was fair. I was nice this time. And the question I posed was for the folks to fill in the blank. And the blank they needed to fill in, who do you think is the best quarterback coming out of this year's NFL draft? Well, here are some of the answers I got. Joe Burrow, of course. Jalen Hurts, of course. And then I get a wild card in Jordan Love out of Utah State. And I've had a chance to take a look at Jordan Love, and he's pretty dynamite. Let's see. Tua, of course. Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama. Justin Herbert out of Oregon. And a couple people said they're even torn between Joe Burrows from LSU and Justin Herbert. But I'm going to be honest with you. There's a reason I put this question up there. And the reason I put this question up there is because I wanted to see if people would catch on to where I was going with it. And where I'm going is this, and one of my good buddies out of Texas, Remy Yates, caught on to what I was doing. All of these quarterbacks that are in this year's NFL draft are great quarterbacks, or they wouldn't have been selected to go to the combine, or they wouldn't put their names in the draft anyway. Joe Burrow, dynamite season, led the Tigers to the national championship. We'll start there. Can Burrow succeed behind that porous Cincinnati offensive line? Can Burrow succeed without having that many receivers to throw to? Will the Cincinnati coaches get smart and develop a spread offense that would be beneficial to Joe Burrow? Will they have a quarterback? I mean, they got Joe Mixon, they have Giovanni Bernard. I nearly forgot his name. But the question is going to be with the offensive line. Are they going to give Joe Burrow enough time to sling that cannon arm? As far as Tua goes, I don't know. I do not know about Tua. And the reason I say I don't know about Tua is because of his injury. He had a horrific hip injury at South Carolina. Now he's due to be cleared soon. He's due to be cleared to resume football activity. But how is his hip going to feel? How healed is his hip? How healed is his body after not playing football for basically the second half of the year and not getting that final contact? I know he was with his teammates while Alabama unfortunately fell out of the college football playoff. And another thing you have to wonder with Tua is Tua going to follow the recent situation, I beg your pardon, the recent trend, that's the word I'm looking for, the recent trend, and of course my wife's waving at me, across from me, rolling her finger saying, get it out now, get it out, the recent trend, that's the correct word I'm looking for, of Alabama quarterbacks such as Tony Banks, A.J. McCarron, I got that wrong. Is a Saban-coached quarterback going to succeed in the NFL? Jamarcus Russell, Tony Banks, A.J. McCarron in recent times. Jalen Hurts, of course, he was under Saban. Then he transferred to Oklahoma, had a great season at Oklahoma, and then I come to Jalen Hurts right now. You know what? Jalen Hurts is the best way I can describe him. Even though he's got a rocket arm, I don't trust his accuracy, and I don't trust his legs, because he could get happy feet in the pocket and try to take off at every opportunity. He could take off at every opportunity and be more of a running quarterback. And if you don't have a pocket presence, not saying Jalen Hurts does, but it needs to improve. It needs to improve. Jordan Love is the closest thing, and Jordan Love is out of Utah State. Jordan Love could be the most complete package that no one has ever seen, unless you live on the West Coast, unless you live in the West, unless you live in the mountain range, then you know all about Jordan Love. Someone brought this name to me, and I decided to take a look, and I've liked what I've seen so far. I have a little more film to break down with Jordan Love. But if you were to ask me the same question that I posed to all of my friends about who the best quarterback they think is coming out of the draft, I've got two answers for you. The first one, Jordan Love. As I said, I still have to do more. I have to do more of a deep dive on him and look at his footwork, look at his arm, look at his accuracy, look at how he gets the ball down the field, look at how he's able to lead a team. And my second answer is an Oregon quarterback, Justin Herbert. There was something, and I know people are going to say, well, Marcus Mariota didn't pan out. He panned out for a while. He just lost whatever moxie he had. I don't think that's going to happen with Herbert. With Justin Herbert, you're looking at a 6'6" quarterback, about 220 pounds, and most of that is muscle. I'm tempted to say all of it is muscle. I've had a chance to watch a lot of Oregon games over the past 2 seasons, and I really believe Justin Herbert is that man. Yes, he operates in a spread offense. He operated in a spread offense. But if he gets to the right team, if the right team drafts Herbert, then there is a possibility that Justin Herbert could be the absolute steal of this draft. Those are my two answers. Jordan Love, who's a mystery to a lot of people, myself included. As I said, I have to do more of a deep dive on Justin Herbert. Jordan Love. I beg your pardon. I'm up early. I'm up early. I have to do more of a deep dive on Jordan Love. But a lot of people are high on him. And from what I've seen so far, I am also. Justin Herbert, to me, is one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. So those are my two answers. Jordan Love out of Utah State and Justin Herbert out of Oregon. A lot of people saw Justin Herbert and the performance he put on against Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. If there was ever an audition tape for Justin Herbert to be selected in the first round of the 2020 NFL Draft that's going to take place in Las Vegas, Nevada, that was it. That was the tape that Justin Herbert needed to put out there, and it's out there. And teams are looking, and teams are salivating over Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert didn't come out last year for this reason. He wanted to get better. I say the same for Trevor Lawrence, who's at Clemson right now. But I would love to see what happens with all of these quarterbacks that are in the draft. I would love to see what happens with Tua. Can he recover from a hip injury? Joe Burrow, who I suspect will be chosen by the Cincinnati Bengals as the number 1 overall pick. Which brings this question to mind. Will the Miami Dolphins offer the world to Cincinnati for that number 1 pick? Or will Cincinnati be allowed to keep it? Because there are going to be a lot of people that are going to come after him, that are going to come after the Bengals, saying they want Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, any of these quarterbacks in the right offense is going to be successful. Any of these quarterbacks, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow. But it's all going to depend on if they get into the right system and if they have the right personnel behind them. Jacob Eason in the right system could shine. Jacob Eason out of Washington could shine as well. Here are a couple of problems I have with Tua. And, as much as I love watching the highlights, I didn't do too much of a deep dive with Tua, but Remy Yates got this to my attention. The hip injury I already mentioned. Lack of good size. And the fact that he played for Nick Saban. I mentioned the other quarterbacks that Nick Saban has had in his stables between LSU and Alabama. Jamarcus Russell, Tony Banks, A.J. McCarron. It's going to be interesting to see if Tua breaks that mold, being a Saban-coached quarterback and succeeding in the NFL. A.J. McCarron was very successful at Alabama under Coach Nick Saban. He hasn't done much in the NFL. More to the point, he hasn't given a good chance to do anything in the NFL. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's definitely going to be interesting to see. Arm strength, field IQ, field vision, knowing when to throw it away or run it, all of that are important. But again, the system that they are incorporated into is going to be so important. Some other things are going to be important with some of these quarterbacks. Being a leader, a locker room guy. That's going to be huge. Would Big Ben be just as successful on the Bears if he hadn't been in Pittsburgh? Would Tom Brady be a 6-time champion if he went to any other team like the Browns and the Bengals? The right system will draft the right quarterback. The right team will draft the right quarterback. And then the right team that drafts the right quarterback, because there are going to be few available in this draft, will put the right pieces around him to succeed. So there are my two answers, and they're preliminary. Jordan Love out of Utah State and Justin Herbert out of Oregon. But the right team will draft the right quarterback, and the right team will also put together the right system around their quarterback. Just as the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. Just as the San Francisco 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo. The team and the system are going to determine who's the best quarterback in this draft class. Don't forget to follow us on social media by using the ID SNW Digital Media. That's SNW Digital Media. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. Don't forget the podcast version of this show will be available after about 1 hour after the show completes. So about 1 p.m. Eastern Time, the Snowman in the Morning podcast will be available, and you can get it wherever you download your podcast. Pause for a break, and when we come back, got some more stuff for you. Snowman in the Morning, back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program as we roll right along here. Don't forget to check out all the festivities and the podcast on my new website, snowmandigitalmedia.com, and the ID you need for Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram is SNW Digital Media. Now, the guest that I have on the line for you, I haven't had this young lady on the line in 2 years. And the last time I had her on, I teased her mercilessly for a good 20 minutes. But we had a great conversation. She and I are two of the busiest people in sports. And if you follow along with what she's doing, you'll understand. She lived out a dream I'm going to make a reality next year. She had a chance to cover the Super Bowl, and I'm going to do that next year in Tampa, and I intend to see her at Raymond James Stadium. The guest I have for you is Miss Kelsey Nicole Nelson of Listen In with KNN, and she joins me right now. How are you, my dear? It's been a while.
Hi, I am great. I cannot believe it's been 2 years. Truly, where does time go?
Man, look, the last time we spoke, you were just getting started in covering Georgetown, and we had a great piece about that. And like I said, she was at the Super Bowl in Miami. You got to take me through that experience. How was that, covering the Super Bowl?
Oh, my gosh. So this is now my second Super Bowl. Atlanta was my first. And it was in Miami, of course. It was like 80 degrees on game day. No coats needed. And then we had a great game. Mm-hmm. So it was like one of the most thrilling experiences because I was down there for 8 days. So you're doing Radio Row, you're doing a bunch of interviews beforehand. Yep. You have stars and celebrities all around you. You're going to different events. You're meeting people. Like, there's nothing like the Super Bowl. Now, I haven't been to NBA All-Star yet. I wanted to go this year, but I'm a bit too busy. So next year, that's on my list when it's in Indy. Yep. But I've heard only NBA All-Star even comes close to the joy of Super Bowl. But Super Bowl is like the most watched game in the entire country, right? So, I mean, nothing compares to that. And it's a fun time. Like, I remember everything, and it's something I think I'll remember until I go down in the grave. Like, it's just one of those things.
When I first had this young lady on the show, it was 2013, and she called on a whim, folks. She called on a whim. We had a great conversation then. We've kept in touch. She's been one of my best friends, not just in broadcasting, but in life. It's wonderful to have you on the show. And I have to pay you this compliment. Your program, Listen In with KNN, A, is a favorite of mine. B, I'm a faithful listener. Yay. And C, you had me on that program last summer, and it was a blast. Tell me how you got that program started.
Sure. Such a great question. So Listen In with KNN is my baby, my brainchild. Mm-hmm. And it's just a show I wanted to start it. I thought it was a great way to showcase my personality, showcase my interview skills, and then I really wanted to have a wide range of guests and kind of go outside of the box. And so I've had a lot of great guests come through. It's a fun podcast. We talk about hot topics in sports. We, of course, talk about their background, even touch on controversial issues. And so I think it's just something people can go home and listen to or start their day with. And again, just listen in with KNN, listen in with me, hear the conversation, comment your thoughts. And hopefully it's a podcast that everyone, no matter their background, no matter what sports they like, hopefully it's something they can get behind, rally behind. And I always say, I always want somebody to learn something and have fun. Those are my two goals. to learn something and have fun. So hopefully every podcast episode, I'm doing that job.
You are definitely doing those two things. And at the top of this year, I decided, I'm going to start recommending some podcasts to people aside of the podcast version of this show, which is an hour. The live show is 3 hours. And I fully recommend listening with KNN. She does have some great guests on there. And like I said, last summer, I had the opportunity to be on that program. And at the time we talked, we were talking NBA World Championship Series because I had correctly picked Golden State, but incorrectly picked Milwaukee. Toronto came out of nowhere, and not only did they win the East, they won the whole thing. And I showed them a lot of love on the program.
We the North.
Yeah, we the North. How did Mike Breen put it? We the North are now we the champions. And I absolutely love the way he put that. How's the show been going?
The show has been fantastic. I just had Santia Deck on. If people have been following women's football, she's with the newly formed Women's Football League Association, the first multi-million-dollar signee for that football league, which I thought was tremendous. And if you've been following this, you also know that Ja Rule bought the New York team in this league. So I think it's very promising. It's exciting. Of course, I think the biggest show I've had since we talked was when I had LeVar Ball on. And still to this day, that's been my top episode. And it was a controversial episode, yes, because he called some people out. But we just had a good conversation, which was fantastic. I've had MLS stars on. I've had European Soccer League stars on. I had the USA Rugby coach on. I've had Mike Hill on, who, of course, congrats to him, is getting married to Miss Cynthia Daly on The Real Housewives. I mean, it's been so fun. I've had retired players, current players. So it's been everyone, and I really just try to have people on that are doing their thing in sports and just try to get them to share their story.
Yeah, and I'm starting to get that lineup also. I had some friends help me get some stars for this show. So, folks, beginning in March, when we start covering the NCAA tournament, you'll see that star list kind of go up a couple of notches. But one star that I did have on the show, and we had a great conversation when I had my afternoon program, was Cliff Levingston, former two-time world champion with the Chicago Bulls. Started his career with with Detroit, I beg your pardon. Then he moved to Atlanta, and of course he finished his career with the Bulls. I tell you what, he had me cracking up laughing for a good 20 minutes with some of the questions I asked him.
That's interview.
And that is one. It's one of my best. I'm going to put it on the website for Snowman Digital Media, and y'all need to check it out. But as soon as I asked him what was one of the worst arenas, and we're talking about the 80s and 90s when he played, as soon as I asked him one of the worst arenas where he didn't want to play, I kind of knew what his answer was, but as soon as he spat out Richfield Coliseum, Richfield, Ohio, I cracked up laughing.
Oh, hilarious!
It's like, and I know, and you've been through this. You kind of get the feeling you know what some of your guests' answers will be, but as soon as they spit them out, you just lose it. You just lose it, and you're like, I knew it. I knew that was going to happen.
Oh, that's too funny. But that's what makes the interview fun.
Yeah.
And, it really gives your listeners a chance to dive in and feel a part of the conversation. But that's such a great answer.
It's like I kind of knew it would be Richfield Coliseum. Lord knows, I being from Chicago, saw Michael Jordan play his entire Chicago career. Didn't you get the feeling when you watched him play against the Cavaliers, he was trying to break their hearts on purpose, and he wound up doing it several times over?
Ooh. Yes. It was definitely a repeat and something that the Cavs may not forgive for.
May not forgive. I know so many Cavalier
definitely
fans.
Won't forgive.
Right,
there
exactly.
You go. Look, I saw burned jerseys and everything. So we know how that goes. Loyalty in the NBA.
I tease a lot of my Cavalier fans, and I told them, you know what the legacy of the Cavaliers is? And they look at me and they go, uh-oh, he's got a good one. I said, yeah, y'all remember a guy named Craig Elo? And they all start laughing. So what's it like, Ben? What's it like covering my first favorite college basketball team, the Georgetown Hoyas?
Yes, Hoyas Sacks. Well, for me, it's a thrill and joy because, of course, I went to grad school at Georgetown.
Right.
And covering Georgetown now, I'm covering Georgetown football and basketball, and I actually will be at the women's game this Sunday when they face off against Villanova. But the men's team, it's been fun. Okay, we're in the Pat Ewing era.
Yes.
All right, we're talking about one and only Pat Ewing. All right, so it's
yes, we're talking about number 33 for Georgetown and for the New York. Patrick Ewing was my first favorite college player, but then Michael Jordan hit a jump shot, and I have been torn since that night in '82 when Jordan hit the game winner because I wanted to see Georgetown win.
Oh,
They did 2 years later, but at the same time, in that game in '82, who knew that we would see so many not only repeat All-Stars but Hall of Famers in that game? Of course, Michael Jordan. Of course, Patrick Ewing.
Yep.
James Worthy, who wound up being the most outstanding player in that game. James Worthy, I still feel to this day, even though he's in the Hall of Fame, is so underrated. But
he is. People don't talk about him enough. And you talked about, just greatness.
Yes. I mean, how can you not mention James Worthy, who a lot of people forget because of Michael Jordan's heroics? James Worthy was the most outstanding player in that game in '82.
Yep. And you talked about it. And this is why, though, when I'm covering that team, and again, having Pat at the helm, I just think of all that history and legacy that he brings with him. And I hope those players understand what they're getting with a guy like Pat. And I'll be honest with you, Georgetown has been great to cover, but of course, unfortunately, that whole sexual harassment, sexual assault case that hit the Georgetown Hoyas basketball team was rough, and I think it kind of changed things a bit. But I really think it showed Pat's leadership.
Yeah.
Because he is a player's coach. And I think Pat's also doing a great job at starting to make sure that he recruits local talent, because that has been for a long time a criticism of Georgetown basketball, and it's something here in the DMV. So in the DMV area, we breed ball players, we like to say, be that football and basketball. So University of Maryland coach Mike Loxley just came out and said he's making recruiting local talent a priority of his. Mark Turgeon has said that with the Maryland Terrapins basketball team. And now I think having Pat say that and be that person, I think it's just promising. And, everybody's looking to him for that. But look, Georgetown Hoyas have a solid, good basketball team. Now, are they the old Big East as of late? No. All right. We're not going back to those good Big East games. But it's still fun to watch them and catch them down at Capital One Arena. Mac McClung, if you don't know that name, Georgetown Hoyas, look him up. So again, young, bright, talented team. I think Pat has his work cut out for him, but it's definitely a fun time.
Capital One Arena will not be the Capitol Center when Patrick Ewing played there, and oh my gosh, I'm starting to get memories now. The battle he had with one Ralph Sampson, that was a nationally televised game. It was only supposed to be on cable, but then all of a sudden, two of the major stations, and like I said, I grew up in Chicago, two of the major stations wound up carrying that game on local television, and we're all sitting in the living room watching this, and we're going, wow. And you hear that place and how loud it is. I'm waiting for the day that Capital One Arena gets that loud when Patrick Ewing leads Georgetown back to prominence.
Me and you both. And look, those are the days we hope for. The Wizards play at Capital One Arena. Wizards games are not loud, all right, folks? I'm just going to be honest with you. Unless a really good team is in town. And I think that's what we've wanted. Look, when I grew up as a kid, when it was back then NCI Center, then it was Verizon Center, now it's Capital One Arena. But back when I was growing up there, we had some glory days there. You talk about the Mike Sweetneys of the world, and just so many great and talented players that came through that Georgetown era. Roy Hilbert, just so many big names I can go back to that I remember growing up watching. And then remember when they were playing in McDonough Arena. So I'm talking about Capital One Arena, not for Georgetown, for Wizards games. But when they were playing those games in McDonough Arena, right, before they even got to Capital One Arena, and it was that tight, hot gym, that sweaty gym, standing room only. Oh, my gosh. Some of the best basketball games that I've seen. And that's, of course, where the women play now. And they used to always do at least one game there. They don't really do that now. But just good memories. But, just Georgetown has a legacy of basketball, right? It's the Allen Iverson days, right? Just the Kembe Mutombo days,
Rejection Road, Dikembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning.
We can talk. So much greatness has come from that. You talked about Alonzo Mourning. Remember his son, Trey Mourning?
Yes.
Actually played for the Georgetown Hoyas. So, I mean, just great basketball. But I think Pat is going to try to get them to that level. And because of his background, I think the donors are giving him more time to do that because it takes time to rebuild a basketball program, folks.
Yes.
It does not happen overnight. And I think he's going to try to do that because if Georgetown can get to any near type of level they used to be, I'm telling you, fun times in DC. I'll tell you real quick. The funnest Georgetown games, and we haven't had them scheduled, but when Georgetown played Maryland, and it's kind of a rivalry they're trying to start, that was probably the last time I've heard a Capital One Arena Georgetown game that loud. I don't even remember that game. Georgetown always played the Maryland Terrapins.
Yes.
So much fun, that crosstown rivalry.
Yeah.
That's the last time I heard a game like just with that much intensity.
I mean, the last time I saw Georgetown get to the Final Four, which of course was 2007, and it was March of 2007. And my dad was watching the game with me, and we both remember watching Patrick Ewing growing up and him watching it with me. When they beat, of all teams, North Carolina in the East Regional Final to get to the Final Four, both of us were crying because we remember that championship game in New Orleans, and then they beat North Carolina in overtime to get to the Final Four, and we look at each other and we're going, it's the glory days again. Georgetown is in the Final Four, and we couldn't believe it. And
that
I can't
overtime
wait.
Victory.
Yes, it was an overtime victory in East Rutherford, New Jersey, for them to get to the Final Four. I could sit and talk with Kelsey all day about Georgetown basketball because, like I said, that was my first favorite team growing up. I mentioned, of course, Patrick Ewing started me on that road. Rejection Road with Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo. Of course, John Thompson was the leader of that team for many, many years as the head coach. Then John Thompson Jr. And now it circles all the way back around to Patrick Ewing being the head coach. And I'm waiting for the old school Big East to come back again. You mentioned Georgetown and Villanova.
The Big East used to be the thing, right, in college basketball.
Wasn't it?
And of course now ACC pretty much owns college basketball.
Yep.
And the Big Ten, they make a run for it here and there, but the Big East, look, there are no times like the Big East times in college basketball. I mean, it's real gritty, nitty-gritty, tough, hard core basketball. And that's what we want back.
I told my wife one of the things I would love to do is to see all of my favorite arenas growing up, all of my favorite stadiums growing up. And unfortunately I can't see the Capitol Center. That's gone. But I did get a chance one year to see the Spectrum in Philadelphia, I beg your pardon. Yeah. Because Villanova would host all their Big East games at the Spectrum. When it was Syracuse, when it was Georgetown, when it was Seton Hall, especially Georgetown. If Georgetown came to Philadelphia to play Villanova, they weren't playing at the small arena. They were playing at the Spectrum. They wanted a crowd for that game, and you put 18,000 people in there, and they're going to be on their feet for the entire game.
I mean, and that's what it's about. And like you said, I mean, again, I'm not saying the East basketball games are not fun. And I will say, Georgetown still gets a pretty good crowd when they face off against Syracuse. But it's not the same. It's not the same. And again, being from here and growing up and going to those games, I know what it was like. And so Pat needs time to get to that level.
Yes.
But I think, he's kind of getting there. And if we're talking about college basketball, I don't think they're getting enough notoriety. But the crosstown Maryland and what they've done this season, Mark Turgeon. And again, Maryland's that quiet but really good basketball team. Some are putting Maryland already in their Final Four. And let's also remember, it's been a while since Maryland has hoisted that national championship trophy. Because we go across the border and cross state, UVA had just won it, right? So we're hoping some of that trickles here down the Beltway. And probably most likely we'll go to Maryland, of course, before Georgetown this season. But it's a good time for college basketball here in the DMV.
It is a very good time. And it's also a very good time for y'all to check out Listen In with KNN wherever you listen to podcasts. I was a guest on there. I am a faithful listener. She puts out some great programs, and I want y'all to check it out. This is Kelsey Nicole Nelson joining me here on the program. I thank you so much for coming on, and I'm not going to wait 2 years to have you on. I got to have you back on soon, especially to talk some college hoops as we travel down the road to Atlanta.
Oh, I'd love it. Thanks so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. Folks, we got more after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Been a while since I had my next guest on, but he's on right now. This is William Morgan, and he joins me right now.
Hey.
What's up, man?
How you doing, man? Thank you for having me back.
It's been a while. Been busy as we come to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's dive in, and let's dive into the XFL first. The Roughnecks remain undefeated, and St. Louis has a football team.
Yep. And we've also are coming to find out that the DC Defenders may end up being frauds.
Really? The floor is yours.
They might end up being frauds. You lost to Tampa Bay last week, 25-0 at home.
At home, yeah. After all the excitement, because DC kicked off the XFL season, and then they lost to Tampa Bay. That's like the Redskins losing to the Buccaneers when they're wearing their creamsicle uniforms.
And then don't forget, they also lost in week 3 also.
Yeah, they did.
So don't forget that either. It's just crazy. They're not playing football very well. You can hear some of the chatter on the field, and this is why I like the XFL experience. You can hear players mic'd up, so whatever they say, we hear it, and you can hear a bunch of misdirection and things of that nature. Receivers not running routes where it's supposed to. Cardell can't get the ball to where it's supposed to be. But it's a doggone shame because I picked Cardell Jones as my fantasy quarterback, and he's not coming up to snuff.
Nope. I mean, Defenders 2-2 right now, and Tampa Bay gets their first victory. Let's go to Dallas or Arlington in this case. The Renegades lose a tough one to Houston, 27-20. What's making the Houston Roughnecks stand out and remain undefeated?
That offense. They're playing very good offense. They're playing decent defense, but that offense has been amazing. I call him the truth. The quarterback for the Houston Roughnecks is playing very, 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 very well. And Walker, he was 25 of 41, 239 yards. He had 2 TDs. He did have an interception, but you can live off of that. This offense is just cooking on all cylinders, and it's different people doing it.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, for Dallas, Landry Jones, a rough afternoon, 25 of 38, 205 yards. He threw a touchdown, but threw 3 interceptions. That Houston defense really helped them get the win in Dallas.
Yeah, it really, really did. Again, in Landry Jones' case, he's still fighting off rust.
Yeah, it might be.
Is what you want to say, but you think he'll be in the groove by now.
You would think.
Let's see what they do in week 5. Yeah.
You would think he'd be in the groove right now. Speaking of in the groove, Ta'amu for St. Louis was in a great groove on Sunday. 20 of 27, 264 yards. He threw a touchdown, and this St. Louis offense is starting to click.
And the fan base is also coming out to support that team, too. They opened up a particular row of seats finally, and the fans are really getting out there and supporting that team. That offense is coming into its own, and it's going to be interesting because week 5, they got the DC Defenders, and the DC Defenders will be at home. So we shall see if DC can get the win or the Battlehawks just keep doing what they've been doing.
And speaking of frauds, look at the LA Wildcats. They lose to New York 17-14, at MetLife Stadium. You know, the Guardians are now 2-2. They're very much in the playoff picture. What's happened to the Wildcats?
Inconsistency. Just being inconsistent. If you watch their games, they're just very inconsistent in terms of moving the football the way that they should. I don't get their issue. I don't get one minute they look to be world beaters, and the next minute they're just playing terrible football. Don't forget the week before they beat the Defenders.
Mm-hmm. They did. And
39-9.
39-9.
It was 39-9. They look outstanding in that game. Backup cornerbacks were doing their thing, getting their hands on balls, tipping balls, getting interceptions. Offense, special teams are doing their thing. But then you look at this week, it's just inconsistency. If the Wildcats can put it together, I think they can be a really decent team. They only lost by 3 points, so they were right there the whole time through.
Yeah. Let's take a look at next week, week 5. Can you believe it's week 5 already? And the one game I'm looking at is the New York Guardians and the Dallas Renegades. Somebody's going to get their 3rd win of the year, and that'll be Saturday at Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. Take a look at that one and tell me what you see.
Something's got to give. I mean, something has got to give. I don't know. I tend to go with the Renegades on this one, but it's just something about the Guardians to me. There's something about it that I think they're a little bit better than their record indicates, and part of me wants to pick them, but the other half doesn't. And
understood.
Yeah, their quarterback situation still isn't the best. Even though they got a win against the Wildcats 17, even though they got a win against the Wildcats last week. So, yeah, that's gonna be a toughie. That's gonna be a toughie.
The game of the I really believe, besides the two that we've already previewed, the Guardians and the Renegades and the Battlehawks and the Defenders, there's a trap game in Houston. The Seattle Dragons and the Houston Roughnecks. You know where I'm going.
There's no trap game there. There's no trap game there. No.
There's no trap game. You don't think it's a trap game for Houston?
Game.
Okay.
You can't trust Brandon Silvers for nothing. You can't.
You really can't. You really can't.
You can't trust him.
How bad will it get?
You cannot trust him at all.
How bad will it get?
Oh, it could be ugly. It could be ugly.
Oh boy.
It could get ugly. It could get ugly real quick. Houston's defense is good enough. The front four is good enough to cause a lot of problems, and that's my team. But they're just not good enough. And issues at quarterback, Quentin Flowers leaving, taking an unexpected leave of absence. I don't think it's a leave of absence he's taken. I think he's just unhappy what his role was on the team, so he decides to leave.
Yeah.
Just turmoil. Silvers is not. He'll show flashes here and there, but for the most part, he's not what he needs to be either. Philip Walker's playing very, very well right now. That offense is clicking on all cylinders. That whole team is playing on all cylinders. I just can't see Seattle doing much against that team.
That's the wrap-up in the XFL. William, if you'll stand by, I know I'll have you on later to talk some NBA. And, folks, when he and I talk NBA, it's fun. Back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Okay, folks, there's been enough basketball talk for a while. And spring training has started, so we're going to talk a little baseball, in particular the American League Central. And I welcome Ricky Keeler of Kicking It with Keeler on full press coverage as we bring back Keeler's K's. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Snowman. How are you?
I am doing good. Baseball is here, and I'm going to mention a team since we're in the American League Central, since that's the division we're previewing. I'm going to mention a team, and I'm going to be very biased when I mention this team, but I think they're going to make some noise. That team is the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, I like the White Sox this year. I think they're a team that can absolutely contend for a wild card spot. I mean, we talked about them a couple weeks ago from what I remember. Their lineup, top to bottom, very deep. I mean, you look at I'm interested to see what Luis Robert does in his first year, what he can bring to the table. They added the Parrot Man Encarnacion. Tim Anderson at the top of the lineup is always a strong threat to win a batting title. You have Moncada, Bray, the list goes on and on. I think the key for the White Sox is going to be their pitching. I mean, if and when they get Michael Kopech back, how that could change things for them. I think that's huge. Does Giolito continue to progress? Does Keiko bring that veteran presence you need? Does Lopez progress? And also in the bullpen. I mean, they just gave an extension to Aaron Bummer, so I'm sure they're not bummed out about that, but he helps out in the bullpen.
Right.
They've got Alex Cobb. I mean, if the White Sox, and they have the farm system to go out if they want to add a reliever at the deadline to help that out. I mean, they're in a good position now where they can contend for a wild card and not give up so many pieces to their future, where I think now is the time where you can expect them to play meaningful games in September.
And plus, with the injury to Yasmani Grandal, the calf injury, James McCann is still around. He was an all-star last year. So already the depth for the White Sox is proving to be a benefit, keeping McCann around.
Yeah, they got McCann on a very good deal where I think he's going to play a factor. Zach Collins also has some catching experience, so he could always help there as well. So I love the way that Rick Hahn at least addressed the depth portion in their lineup. I mean, they have a really strong bench. I think you definitely have to give them credit there. To me, it's just all about the pitching. If they can get any form of pitching, if they continue to develop, like if Dylan Cease would make that jump up as well. They need the pitching now to catch up with the offense.
Yeah, the pitching is absolutely going to be the key for the White Sox, but I like their chances to sneak into the playoffs this year. And if we're talking about the American League Central, it begins in the middle and it ends with the defending division champion Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, I think the question with the Twins is it's just about, can they compete with the big guys in the American League? Can they compete with the Yankees in the best of five? We saw how bad that went for them last year. Can they compete with the Astros? But when you add Josh Donaldson to an offense that's already arguably top 2 or top 3 in baseball, you should be right back in this position. The key is going to be the pitching for them as well. Does Jose Barrios take that next step and be that reliable guy, especially in the playoffs? They added Kenta Maeda, which should help. They added Homer Bailey. They added Joel Chacin. They added Rich Hill, who will be back at some point this year. So they've at least added more bodies to the equation. It's just about the quality of what they get, I think, is the question mark. Taylor Rogers is the second-year closer. What does he do? The Twins are deep. I mean, the question for me, Snowman, is not how good they're going to be. It's how great they can be.
Right. And I absolutely agree with that. The wild card in this division is going to be the Cleveland Indians. After basically being sellers at the deadline, can they bounce back and make this a 3-team race?
I think that's the question. I think it starts with Clevenger. I mean, how quickly can Mike Clevenger come back? Because if they get off to a bad start, they're a team that has the pieces to sell. I mean, obviously the name Francisco Lindor is going to pop up if they're out of contention by July. That way a team can get both this pennant race and the next pennant race with him. But the Indians always seem to find young pitching. I mean, they're kind of like the Cardinals of the American League, where you get rid of Trevor Bauer, you get rid of Corey Kluber, and you have Shane Bieber, you have Zach Plesac. You added Logan Allen on that Franmil Reyes trade in the Bauer trade last year. Aaron Savali is another young kid. So they just seem to find different guys they can plug in there and be effective. Now, it's bad for them that they seem to have lost the guy they got in the Kluber trade, Emmanuel Classic, for the next couple months. That's never a good thing at all. So you have to wonder what they're thinking about that. But for Cleveland, I think, to me, I'm intrigued by their outfield because you added Domingo Santana early in this month. I think he'll help out. Reyes in the American League for a full year, I think, will be interesting for them. They added Cesar Hernandez for the infield this winter. But I think also, as I said, their outfield, you have Jake Bowers, you have Bradley Zimmer. That could be options for them at the major league level. You never can count out Terry Francona, but it just feels like the Indians, at some point, the more they don't seem to add significant pieces, the more you wonder if this is the year they take a step back. Because this is a team that missed the playoffs despite winning almost 95 games last year.
Right. And on top of that, this was the team in 2017 that won 102 games but got eliminated in the division series by the New York Yankees by allowing the Yankees to come back from a 2-game deficit. Keeler's K's here on the program as we preview the American League Central. How bad does it get for the Tigers and the Royals this year?
Tigers, I think it's going to be pretty bad. The one thing I think you got to look for in Detroit is when do you see guys like Casey Mize? When do you see guys like Alex Faedo? Like, when do the young guns from Detroit start to come up and make an impact on the pitching side? Because I think offensively, they're not really in the best position right now to be in contention. They don't really have that star prospect that maybe makes that impact, at least offensively, for them. I mean, Miguel Cabrera continues to get older. That never helps. They did add a couple of free agents to the mix. They added Austin Romine to help as a veteran behind the plate. They added CJ Cron, added Jonathan Scope. But the Tigers really, I mean, what happens? Do they trade Matt Boyd at the deadline as if he's the best chip on the table to clear a spot for a guy like Mize or somebody like that? They did add Ivan Nova, but I don't really know what that's going to be. Jordan Zimmerman is on the downside of his career. So really, I like the Royals' chances better than the Tigers, just because I think Kansas City's got at least more players to make an impact. Like they have Whit Merrifield, who's always consistent. They have Mondesi, who can steal bases. Jorge Soler was one of the best home run hitters in the American League last year. So there's at least some optimism with the Royals to at least, I won't say be competitive, because last year they were at like 59 wins. I think they can definitely get in the 60 win mark. And to me, the Royals, I think it's another team, like we talked about the Orioles, where you buy their MILB package. You probably buy your MILB package for the Royals because you have guys like Brady Singer in the minors, and you have Chris Vujic and Daniel Lynch, and you have these guys that can make an impact down the road. So both the Royals and Tigers have good farm systems, but you can't expect them to do anything in 2020 other than just be spoilers for maybe Minnesota or the White Sox or the Indians down the stretch.
Is this a 2-team race or a 3-team race in the American League Central? Because we talked about the 3 teams that could make that will make it a race: Minnesota, Chicago, and Cleveland. But is this Minnesota and Chicago's division to compete for?
I'm still going to go 3. I'm very hesitant on 3. It's just I can't count out Terry Francona. It's tough for me to do that just because he's one of those managers that seems to get the most out of less. Like, we throw Kevin Cash's name in there. We throw Girardi's name in there at times. Francona adds to that mix because he always seems to get his teams in contention. I think the Indians at least be around for maybe a wild card like the White Sox. Because remember, the White Sox, they still have, as talented as they are, they still have to prove they can make that jump as well. So I'll say 3. You can make the case for 2, absolutely, but to me, I'm not going to be the one that counts out Terry Francona.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. That's our preview of the American League Central with Rick Keeler on Kicking It with Keeler. You can catch Kicking It with Keeler. I knew I'd mess that up. On fullpresscoverage.com. Keeler's Caves is with you every week as we take you to and through the 2020 Major League Baseball season. Thanks for the time, my friend. Truly appreciate it.
Thanks so, man.
I don't care what he says. My White Sox are going to compete for not only a wild card, but a division title. But about 2 or 3 quantum leaps have to be made. And like Ricky said, it's going to be all about the pitching. That part I know. Yes, I'm a fan, but I'm also a realist. It's going to be all about the pitching for the Chicago White Sox. Because remember, when they won it in 2005, they had the fearsome foursome in their starting pitching rotation. John Garland, Freddie Garcia, Mark Burley, Jose Contreras. Who's going to be the fearsome foursome for the Chicago White Sox for them to make the first of the 2 quantum leaps they need to make in order to take over that division? They're going to compete this year. Will they win the division? Probably not. Not with the Minnesota Twins hanging around, and you know weird stuff happens in Minnesota when the Sox go to Minnesota anyway, be it the Metrodome or Target Field. Stupid things happen in Minnesota, but it's going to be a fun race to watch. Got more for you in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Okay, folks. I am going to lay a few warnings down before I bring my next guest in. And the warnings are as follows. There's going to be a lot of truth-telling. Wait, I do that every morning I'm on the air, so scratch that warning. There's going to be a lot of real truth-telling about certain players. There's going to be an actual great conversation happening. And doggone it, there's going to be some fun had, especially with the subject that I'm going to bring my guest in for. So I will tell y'all right now, you better strap in, because if you don't like the way it's going to be told, you're going to have to get over it. Courtney Harden from The Real Deal with Courtney Harden now joins me. It's been too damn long, man.
Thank you for having me, man. Thanks for that intro. Yes, it has been too long, so I know we're going to be telling some truth, as you said.
First time I talked to him was on his show 2 years ago. And here's how we got off the rails the very first time. Courtney posed a question to me, and the question he posed to me was, since the Rockets had acquired Chris Paul, do they stand a chance? No. Actually, his question was, and I quote, do you trust the Rockets to beat the Warriors? And I respectfully and eloquently said, hell no, I don't.
I remember that. Yes, I do.
And since then, folks, we've been off to the races.
Yes.
Courtney Harden is back. You can catch him every Saturday on The Real Deal with Courtney Harden, a fabulous show. I recommend it. Let's just dive into it. Now,
all right, let's do it.
You're an NBA fan like I, but you also know what real NBA is. And we had it well before some of these guys showed up. So here's where I lead. Why can't Joel Embiid stay healthy and stay on the floor?
It's funny because that's actually a good question. Like every single year,
This
guy, you're just waiting for him. Like I said, we don't wish injury on anybody.
No,
but
we don't.
There's certain players, certain guys in the in sports that are just too brittle, too brittle. If it's physically, if it's mentally, this guy just can't stay healthy. It's unbelievable. It was just a matter of time before something went wrong, and then things are not going right for that team, and it happened. And now they're saying a week, but we know Joel Embiid is going to be longer than 1 week.
It's going to be a month. Come on, let's just be real about it. It's going to be until April. This is Joel Embiid we're talking about. This is the fellow that everybody praised coming out of Kansas, that he was supposed to be the next best big man, which I haven't seen until after Shaquille O'Neal retired. I haven't seen him yet.
Yep, agreed. I agree with that. I agree with that assessment because, as talented as he is, he's very inconsistent, or he's not persistent enough to stay healthy. How about that?
Let's stay with Philadelphia. Let's stay with the 76ers. My first question, why can't Embiid stay healthy? My other question, and I think you know what's coming, why can't Ben Simmons hit a jump shot?
and with Ben Simmons, it's not the lack of hitting a jump shot, it's the lack of shooting a jump shot. How about that? Like, this guy.
Why can't he? I'm going to say it as plain as my wife would say it. Why can't he grow a set and take a few jump shots from outside of 10 feet?
Right. another guy. I was gonna say another guy that gets in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
He can get in the paint whenever he wants. He's talented enough.
Yep.
Got a lot of dribble game. He can get in the paint, but he likes to kick it out. Like, and he doesn't even go for layups hardly anymore. So, what's the harm of attempting a jumper outside of 10 feet? You're either gonna make it or you're gonna miss it. It's funny because I was talking to a coworker of mine. You know, a lot of Sixer fans here in Philly.
Of course.
And we were just, we were talking about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So we were talking about Ben Simmons, and we're like, okay, is it going to hurt you to attempt jump shots? Okay, if you miss them, that's fine. But it's not about, it's not about you missing them. It's about you attempting them. So if you attempt them, nobody's going to hurt you if you're shooting 20% from the field. If you're shooting, at least you're attempting to shoot. But that's the answer. Why not? Or the question: why not attempt a jump shot?
Have I not said that very same thing as long as you and I have been on each other's shows? I've said the two players that are going to ruin it for Philadelphia are Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. We're on the cusp of March, and we're into March, I beg your pardon. Guess what? You're seeing the pattern again. Trust the process is the saying in Philadelphia. They have one good run in the playoffs. Of course, that's 2018 when they beat Miami in 5 games because Miami didn't challenge Ben Simmons outside of 10 feet. They get to Boston, and Boston said, oh, we'll handle this. Terry Rozier scared Ben Simmons to a point where Ben Simmons didn't want to take a jump shot. You said it best. Ben Simmons didn't want to take a jump shot. I see a big problem with that. Let's see. Let's mix in a little old school here before we really go off the rails. Kevin Johnson penetrated a lot. He wasn't afraid to take a jump shot. B.J. Armstrong penetrated a lot. He wasn't afraid to take a jump shot. A couple of Philadelphia 76ers you'll be familiar with. I believe their names are Maurice Cheeks and Andrew Toney.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They weren't afraid.
Nope.
They were not afraid. And you had guys that didn't have jump shots, like you said, Kevin Johnson. We go with Derrick Rose. His jump shot was broken.
Mm-hmm.
Broken coming out of college. And he wasn't afraid. He developed an actual decent enough jump shot. Wasn't consistent. He wasn't a Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, but the man at least attempted a jump shot. And you even had guys like Joakim Noah, who has one of the ugliest shots. He attempted jump shots.
But the thing is, they had the nerve to try them. Sir Charles, who graced Philadelphia for 8 seasons, had the nerve to take a few outside jump shots. And he made more than he attempted. He made more than he missed. Okay? But he had the nerve to take them. You mentioned Joakim Noah. You mentioned Derrick Rose. How about Draymond Green? He's not afraid to take a jump shot or two.
Nope.
How about
that? Andre
Oh, man. Andre Iguodala is one of the most underrated players that I've ever watched. Underrated.
Yes, he is.
One of the most underrated players I've ever watched. You know what? Let's really go there. Scottie Pippen developed a jump shot. He became a Hall of Famer for his defense. And, of course, when you're riding the coattails, and Scottie will happily admit this, of the greatest to ever do it, and Michael Jeffrey Jordan, you learn a few things. Like, I don't know, how to hit a jump shot, how to penetrate, how to read a defense. Come on, Ben Simmons. You're in the NBA now. You're 4 years deep. You haven't taken a key jump shot yet.
Yeah, and I don't see it ever happening either.
I don't either.
Unless they go, it's coaching. It's going to be coaching. You know, maybe he needs a new coach to push him. I think Brett Brown coddles Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons too much. So Ben Simmons
if they lose in the playoffs, Brett Brown's out of there. He's gone.
Yes, they got to get to the conference finals. They have to, at the least, get to the conference finals. I don't see that happening.
At the least, they got 4 players on that team with plus $100 million contracts. They need to win the darn thing. They need to at least make an appearance in the, listen to my terminology, World Championship Series before they even put a contract on the table for Brett Brown. Hey, Billy Cunningham won a couple of conference titles. Okay?
Yes, he did.
So
yes.
miss me with Philadelphia being snake bitten. I've seen Billy Cunningham beat Boston in Boston, beat the blank out of Milwaukee to win win conference titles. Oh, by the way, he did that in back-to-back years. And in '83, he won the world championship. Want to talk about a person who developed a jump shot over the years? My first favorite player, Julius Erving.
Yep. Yes, he did.
Matter of fact, one of the legendary Hall of Famers. Like I said, he was my first favorite player before some guy named Michael Jordan showed up. Ben Simmons, take a lesson. It was a jump shot that sealed the '83 World Championship in Game 4 on the road in the Forum.
Yep. So, yes, and you talk about Sixers. How about Allen Iverson?
Oh my gosh, yes. Allen Iverson.
You know?
Allen Iverson. You know, at first I didn't like him when he came into the league, but he played at one of my favorite colleges, which is Georgetown. Loved the Georgetown Hoyas. And then I fell in love with watching AI. And then AI in his Hall of Fame speech paid homage to the greatest of all time in Michael Jordan. So I'm like, hey, I can't be mad at AI anymore.
You know, it's funny. I mean, maybe that's why we connect with a lot, because I wasn't a big fan of AI in the beginning either. I was not I knew he was great. Knew he was going to be great. Gonna be good. I didn't know maybe the brain of basketball that he brought, but I mean, this man, I had a fond respect for him later in his career.
Right.
When they got to the finals, when they actually got to the finals with that team.
Yes.
With that team, and they did beat the Lakers in Game 1, but Shaq and Kobe was just too much for them. And
Shaq and Kobe got mad.
Yes,
Shaq
they did.
and Kobe got mad. You beat us in the Staples Center in the World Championship Series? Not anymore, you won't.
Yes.
And they never saw the and Philadelphia, bless their hearts, never saw the Staples Center again. Because it ended in Philadelphia.
Right. Yep. So that showed he played with so much heart and, you know, so much drive, determination. I mean, this guy just never quit. I said, I got to respect this. I mean, there's being an NBA fan, you have to respect it. So, and then, like I said, he's an all-time great himself. So, yeah,
he is.
Big ups to AI.
And speaking of guards that can make a jump shot, I don't know, Isaiah Thomas.
Yep.
Joe Dumars.
Yes. All these all-time great guards that can shoot, that developed a jump shot.
You know what? You said the key thing, develop a jump shot. They had the nerve to identify their weakness and take care of it, which leads me to Zion Williamson. I got in trouble because I said I was not impressed with Zion Williamson. And these 21st century NBA fans that I've talked about on my show often pushed back hard against my critical review of Zion Williamson. I've had people ask me before he left Duke, which I think he should not have, because you're going to see problems with Zion for at least 2 years. The first problem is going to be conditioning.
Yeah. I agree with his conditioning. Definitely. I definitely agree with his condition. I think his body type, the way it is, I mean, he's a strong individual to be that young. He's 19, I think. He's 19.
He is 19.
And, you know, I think what, like I said, with the new school fans, 21st century fans of the NBA, they kind of crown players too soon. Like Zion's played
13
less than 20 games.
He's played 13.
So less than 15 games.
He's played 13 games, which took him
and now,
a full year to almost a full year.
Yeah.
To play 13 professional games because he had to sit out for an extended period of time with an injury. 13 games, and they're saying he's going to pass Wilt Chamberlain in terms of points during his rookie year. Newsflash, he's only going to have half of his numbers.
Yeah, right, because he hasn't played enough games as it is. So let's put that in perspective first. Right. Now, I like him. I do like Zion. I like what I've seen so far, but it's still a small sample size. Let's put it in perspective. Let's see. They said it's 13 games in the NBA.
Yep.
Now, yes, he's been pretty impressive. He's been he's developing, and he's still developing his game. So let's pump the brakes on him as the greatest show right now. In an NBA.
Thank you.
He's box office. Yes. Okay. But that he sells tickets. Yes. Okay. There's ratings. Great for the NBA. They need the ratings jump.
They need it badly, and I'll touch on that in a couple of minutes.
Right.
But
so it's good for the league.
It's good for the league. It is good for the league. I never said he wasn't a fabulous athlete. Okay?
Right.
This is, and you know where I'm going with this statement because you've heard me say it before. I said it on your program. I will never say Zion Williamson is not a fabulous athlete. I'm saying right now he ain't good as a basketball player. Big difference.
Right. Yes, I can agree with that. I totally can agree with that because he hasn't developed anything yet. Like you said, he's got to get in better shape. That takes time. Like I said, his body type, he's a big guy, strong guy, so he's moving players. I mean, when you can move Dwight Howard, who's 7 foot and big, and you can move him out of the way, you got some strength. So he's got that 285 body, but that body type,
he's too heavy. In my opinion, he's too heavy. At 6'7", I understand he's built. I get that, okay? But I've watched some high school footage of Zion, and he's no more out of shape now than he was when he was playing high school a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Right. And you already see the injuries now, too. It's unfortunate for such a young player. He's had some major injuries the first year in Duke, the 1 year in Duke, and now even with the Pelicans right now, you see the injuries, but that goes with him being out of shape, being too heavy, and it's breaking out his body. And we've seen players who was heavy don't last in the league too long.
No.
Oliver Miller type
Oliver
guys,
Miller, exactly.
Yeah, Greg Oden. And Eddie Curry, unfortunately, he had heart conditions. But Eddie Curry, these guys didn't last in the league. Yeah, Zion's more talented than they are, but it goes to show you he's got to get. You can tell when he's running up and down the floor.
He's tired.
He gets tired very quickly because he wastes. The energy that he's building, so much energy and wastes so much energy. He wants to dunk everything and but like you said, in time, we'll see if he develops.
In due time, I believe he will develop. In due time, I believe he will develop. In due time, if, and I know I'm very critical, but I've got to say it, and I'm going to continue to say it until I see different. If he decides to get it in his mind, like Shaquille O'Neal did after Phil Jackson arrived in Los Angeles, that he wants to be one of the best players on the planet, I don't see it happening.
I 100% agree. I totally agree with that.
And it's between the ears, man. It's not on the floor. It's between the ears. Which brings me to the subject of LeBron James. Yep, here we go. Yeah, you know where I'm going. It brings me to players like LeBron James, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. There's a few hundred more I can name, but let's just go with those three. They are entrenched in the league. The problem is they're not good basketball players, even at their advanced stage and their advanced status in the league. And I had someone question me and say, how can you say that about those three? Have you seen them play? Have you seen James Harden and Russell Westbrook fight over who's going to take the shot? Have you seen LeBron James walk across midcourt, take 3 extra steps after terminating his dribble, and then bounce the ball again?
Yeah, yes, we've seen that with LeBron a lot, and yeah, let's go with Harden and Westbrook. I'm glad you brought them up. I knew you were going there with those two guys. Talented guys, as we said. We know that. They definitely. But I agree, they're pure basketball players. They're not.
No.
So
they're
they're not.
You would think the way they're touting Harden and Westbrook, you would think they were Cheeks and Tony, or or Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars. They're not.
Yep.
They're really not.
No, they're not. They're not. They selfish players. They're guys that you can't win with that formula. We've seen this. You talked at the top of the show. You said it with, and Chris Paul's even he's not selfish. He's actually more unselfish than Westbrook. But these guys are gonna fight over the ball.
Yep.
They're gonna, what's gonna happen when they get in the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
That small ball, they're gonna miss shots. Westbrook's not a great shooter as it is. He's another guy though that actually will take the shot. So that unlike Ben Simmons, Westbrook will take shots. Bad shots or not, he takes shots. But he's not a good shooter.
No.
So he's going to go in there and, jack up 30, 40 shots. So that's going to happen with Harden. Harden likes to shoot the ball. He loves to dribble, back step, shoot that three. It doesn't work.
You mean that travel back step?
Yes, the travel back step.
That travel back step that Russell Westbrook's now developing?
Yeah, bad habits. Bad habits with those guys. They're learning off of each other, bouncing off each other.
You mean that flop that James Harden and LeBron James loves to do? And people say, well, you're criticizing LeBron because he's LeBron. You're damn right I am, because I've seen holes in his game for 17 years that no one has told him how to fix. The best of LeBron we saw was in Miami when Eric Spoelstra got in his head and got in his rear end about the player he should be. The problem is LeBron didn't like taking A, criticism, B, instruction, and C, what's the word you and I love to use? Structure.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Because LeBron does what LeBron wants to do, and he's been doing it for 17 years. And he had a structure with Riley and Spoelstra. He had a structure with Riley and Spoelstra.
Do you know how great, and I will put this question out there. It'll be one of the few times I do, but let's just play devil's advocate here. Do you know how great LeBron James could have been had he taken the instruction and the structure and the criticism and used it as fuel to make his game better? You can't play bully ball for 17 years and think you're going to do what you were supposed to do in Miami and couldn't do it because you got mossed by Dirk Nowitzki.
Yes, he did, and that's funny because they actually had the better talent, I should say.
They did.
That year.
They did.
Yeah, because it was Dirk and it was Dirk and it was Jason Terry. It was a Jason Kidd that was in the back end of his career, and Tyson Chandler, and they
Miami
had
should have
these guys
swept that. Miami should have swept that series.
Yeah,
but Dallas
was on a mission.
But the Mavericks were more organized.
Yep, and they had an MVP, Dirk Nowitzki, MVP player, who was like, I'm not losing this series. I'm not losing again to Miami. I'm going to take this series and beat LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, the big three, and he did it.
You know something? Cole Johnson, a mutual friend and a very fabulous talk show host that I've had on this program a lot, said the best thing, and it capsulizes what I thought of LeBron for 17 years. There are 4 games in LeBron's playoff career that permanently eliminated him from greatest of all time conversation. And those 4 games are games 3 through 6 in the 2011 World Championship Series. Why, you ask? Because in each one of those games, In the fourth quarter of those 4 games, he scored a total of 8 points.
Wow. That's a daunting stat.
2 points in game 3 in the fourth quarter, 2 points in game 4 in the fourth quarter, 2 points in game 5 in the fourth quarter, with the game hanging in the balance, mind you. With the game hanging in the balance. And then game 6 on his home floor. On his home floor. He scores 2 points in the final 12 minutes. 2.
That's 2 points. Wow.
2.
That's in the next greatest player, supposedly. You can't do that. You just don't do that.
Do you think Stephen Curry would have scored only 2 points in the fourth quarter in 4 consecutive games? No. Do you think Klay Thompson would have let that happen? No. Do you think Kawhi Leonard would have let that happen? No. And he's proven it twice, 2014 and 2019. Do you think Kevin Durant would have let that happen? Not on
Definitely
your
not.
life.
Dude, Durant's going to try to get 22 points in a quarter, and he can,
I'll give you a 5th game that has eliminated LeBron, in my opinion. Actually, a 5th and a 6th that eliminated LeBron from greatest of all time conversation. And I'm going to talk about this later in the week. Game 3 of the 2017 World Championship Series and Game 3 in the 2018 World Championship Series. Why, you ask? If you're LeBron and you're supposedly the greatest player in the world, which he ain't, and there's enough proof out there if folks actually put their headphones on and do their research, and of course my wife's laughing at me right now. She helps produce this segment about putting headphones on. If people would actually, but in all seriousness, if people would actually sit down and do some research, you'd eliminate LeBron from the greatest of all time conversation for the 6 games that I mentioned. Why am I mentioning 2017 and 2018? In 2017, Durant gets a rebound off of a 3-point miss, trots up the floor, LeBron's backpedaling, and LeBron made the most critical mistake, and he allowed Durant space. So what does Durant do? A 31-footer right in his eyes.
Yep. I remember that so vividly because Durant, now you're talking about a guy who is arguably one of the greatest scorers of all time. I wouldn't say
absolutely
arguably, one of the greatest scorers of all time.
Absolutely.
And as you said, LeBron's backpedaling and not getting on the ball against a guy that can score from anywhere on the floor.
Yes.
Anywhere.
Inside, outside, 3-point land.
Yes, off the dribble, off the bounce, post up, all that. LeBron, KD is that guy.
KD is that man.
Yes.
All right.
And you give him that much room, he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to pull up and hit this in your face. As I've been hitting shots all game, all series. So, okay, give me my finals MVP.
Right now. And 2018, why did LeBron James switch off of Durant and let Rodney Hood guard Kevin Durant?
Ooh.
The best player in the world does not shirk a defensive assignment.
No, nothing like that. Nothing. We've seen it with Michael Jordan. He took the challenges and thrived on the challenges. That's why he's the GOAT.
Michael took them all. Scotty took them all. Shaquille O'Neal took them all. Kobe Bryant took them all. Julius Erving, Bobby Jones, Magic Johnson. Do I need to go on this list? They took them all. Win or lose, put it on my back. Win or lose, put it on my back. Oh, I forgot. Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Charles Barkley. took all the challenges.
All-time greats. All-time
They
greats.
took all the challenges. You don't shirk a defensive assignment when you're supposed to be the best player on the floor. You're not supposed to do that.
Nope. Take the challenge, and no matter what happens, as you said, criticism. LeBron doesn't take criticism too well.
He does not.
17 years.
He does not.
Right. And I like LeBron. And you know this, and known me for a couple of years. I like LeBron a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a real, like you said, we're realists. We know where is the flaws in the game, and that right there, those 3 key points you pointed out is where, that keeps him from the GOAT conversation.
And I see the same flaws developing in some of the players we've mentioned in recent times. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Zion Williamson. I shouldn't pin it on a rookie, but after watching him, I know what I like and I know what I've seen. Folks, the clip that I'm going to play for you, let's go back to June of 2018, June 6th, as a matter of fact, 2018. We're in Cleveland, Ohio. It's 103-100. It's Game 3 of the World Championship Series. Golden State leads 2-0 at the Quicken Loans Arena. There's less than a minute to go. LeBron James has just switched off of Kevin Durant and switched on to Stephen Curry. Why he did that, I don't know. So you leave Rodney Hood, of all people, to defend Kevin Durant, who's waved Stephen Curry away. He's waved Andre Iguodala away. He's waved Draymond Green away. ABC had the call, and then this happened.
Kevin Durant way outside, delivers! Kevin Durant from downtown, it's a 6-point game. That's the same spot where we had it in Game 3.
Mike Breen on the call. And, Your Honor, I rest my case.
That's all you need. That's all you need. KD. That's it.
There are some reasons of why people think the ratings are down in the NBA this year, and they're going to be down for a while. But I have a theory, and it goes like this. In 3 words, no Splash Brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
No Splash Brothers.
Yep. No Splash Brothers. No Splash Brothers. No Kevin Durant.
Exactly. I mean, you got Kawhi, and Kawhi's doing great, but you don't have, how was it described to me? You don't have that team that you love or hate there. You don't have it.
Yep.
It's
That's
like
true.
you want to see what they do every night, but you don't want to see what they do every night. Right now, that team that people want to watch every night, except you and I, are the Los Angeles Lakers. And my question is why?
I guess the appeal of still LeBron, AD, LA, but I personally don't think they're the best team. They're not the best team in LA, just so right now. So I mean, I gotta go with the Clippers until Kawhi gets beat. I gotta go with the Clippers. It's as simple as that. Kawhi is, he's the Finals MVP.
Mm-hmm. Twice
from
over.
Last year. Twice over. Yep. Can't forget that. 2 times over. Maybe about to be 3 times. We'll wait and see what happens in the playoffs. Hopefully they stay healthy. That's the Clippers' only problem.
I really hope they stay healthy because I don't want to see LeBron get to the World Championship Series. He hasn't earned it. He has not earned it. And while we were talking earlier in this conversation, I'm with Courtney Harden from The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. While we were talking about players that can't stay on the floor, as ultra talented as they are, Let me throw a stat out there that people want to ignore about an all-star. Anthony Davis has yet to play a full season in the NBA. And you can cross this season off the list, too, because he's missed 8 games this year. And none of them due to rest.
Right. Yeah, he's always banged up somehow, some way. He's always another player that's just, I don't know, is brittle. And this is a talented guy. This is a real talented guy.
Very much so. Very much so.
He's just as another guy that's never been out of the second round of the playoffs. And, it's because, the health reasons for him.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see those guys at full strength, just like you do.
Yes,
you're a fan of the league, so you want to see the best versus the best. So if we get the LA series, as everybody predicts, which I think there's a couple teams. I'm with you. I think there's a couple teams like Denver, who's going to be a tough out.
Like
in
Utah.
The playoffs. Utah's another one. Yep. Those four.
And of course, now we just roll right into our playoff discussion, folks, since it's right down the way.
Yeah,
It's like you got Utah that's going to be a tough out. Denver's going to be a tough out. Who's to say the Portland Trailblazers won't sneak in and give the Lakers fits?
Yes, right. We forget Portland, if they can just get it together. Remember, last year, they get to the conference finals, the Western Conference Finals. They ran into a buzzsaw in the Warriors.
They ran into a depleted Warriors team. And nothing against the Portland Trailblazers. Nothing. I love Damian Lillard, who can shoot the basketball. Who can shoot the basketball, by the way, Ben Simmons. I love C.J. McCollum, who can shoot the ball Who can shoot the basketball, by the way, Ben Simmons, LeBron James, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. But they ran into a depleted Warriors team, and after the Warriors won game 1 in a rout, 3 separate times, the Blazers led Golden State by at least 15 points.
Yes.
And somehow Golden State comes back and wins all 3. And if you're Terry Stotts and the Portland Trailblazers, you had to be thinking, what the hell do I have to do to knock off these guys?
Right. They had them. They had them in those 3 games, as you said. But like you said, it's more though. It goes to the rating.
Mm-hmm.
Splash Brothers.
Yes,
Brothers.
You want to talk about some folk and Stephen? I love Stephen A. Smith. Okay, he was so distraught when the Knicks lost out on drafting Zion. Have you noticed Stephen A. just kept talking about Zion being box office and not being a good player? This is the exact problem that we're seeing right now with this one and done rule that's been instituted and needs to go the blank away. It needs to go.
It definitely needs to go. That one and done, because players are they either going to come straight out of high school or you make them, if you're going to do it, you got to make them stay a couple of years in college. But the one and done, they're not developing.
And that's exactly the reason why ratings have been down for at least 7 years. At least 7 years, the ratings have been down. This is my theory as to why the Warriors were hated. Because they actually had players that started and played, I don't know, maybe at least 3 years of college, and they get to the right situation and they actually developed and they actually play well together. And folks, I'm going to say this right now. Do not be surprised if there's a celebration in San Francisco next summer.
I am with you. We talked about it on my show. We talked about this. We said, okay, okay, Curry's hurt.
Yep.
he's supposed to be back this weekend. They said he's supposed to play Sunday, I believe. So good for that. Good for that situation. Curry's out, Clay's out, KD out, but to another team.
Mm-hmm.
So Draymond's playing with a lot of rookies, a lot of young players who are developing for the Warriors with Kerr in that system. Okay, they're gonna have probably the worst record in the league, or one of the worst records. They're gonna get a top draft pick, and and who's to say they can't get another marquee player? Who's to say?
I got two rumors in the mill concerning the Golden State Warriors, concerning two players that Andrew Wiggins is going to be the bait, along with some draft capital. And I exposed who these two players were last week on the program. I'm going to do it now. You know, with this conversation, especially when I put my new segment together, Rumor Mill. The two players that are in play for Golden State and Golden State only, Karl Anthony Towns and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I like that. I've heard the Giannis one. I said, no way. You know, it's one of those things you're like, no way. Like, are they gonna strike gold again? It's like
they said they wouldn't. They said Kevin Durant wouldn't sign with Golden State.
Yes, right.
We saw how that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, I got people telling me Giannis wants out of Milwaukee. Giannis wants out,
especially if they don't go to the finals,
which they won't.
Go to the finals.
Which they won't.
You got to go to the finals, right? You got to get to the finals.
You got to win in Giannis's case, you have to win the thing.
Mm-hmm.
In Giannis's case,
get to the finals and win it.
You have to win it, and I don't see them doing it. Now, I got a lot of folks that are Bucks fans, and since we're talking playoffs, I may as well put this out here too. You know who I see coming out of the East? I have two choices. One of them, the Boston Celtics. The second, the Toronto Raptors, the defending world champions.
Yeah, they are the world champions, and they're playing just as good as when they without Kawhi that they did with Kawhi.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Nurse is a tremendous coach, got a tremendous system. They bought in. They're a cohesive team.
Nick Nurse is a tactician.
They have all the elements.
Okay.
Yes. They got all the elements. And they had the formula. They don't have Kawhi Leonard. That's a big piece. But they had the formula to say, okay, Giannis, and I love Giannis until he could get
do too.
You know,
until Giannis
that playoff
can be consistent. Until Giannis can be consistent, I don't see it. I really don't see it. I just don't.
And he's got to get consistent. He's got to get consistent jump shot. Another guy who does attempt jumpers, a la Ben Simmons.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
Playoff time, they found a formula to how to stop him. And the team LeBron on the All-Star game, they found that formula how to stop Giannis in that fourth quarter.
Yep.
You pack that paint.
Pack that paint. And you send a posse after him. That's all you do.
Yes.
Keep him out of the lane. You do it the old school. You do it the old school way. You pack the paint and you send a posse after him. How many times did we see the Chicago Bulls in the 90s pack the paint when they were down and they were making a run to get back in the game? How many times have we seen them be down double-digit points, and before you could blink, they pack the paint, they turn on the pressure, and the next thing you know, it's a tie game and the Bulls have the ball going for the lead. And you're going, what?
Yes. The great players find a way they figure out a different way to score in the playoffs. So Giannis has to do that now. It's time. It's your time now. Like, you're going to win your second MVP. Who's my choice for MVP this year again?
Runaway.
Yeah, runaway MVP. Yes.
Runaway.
So now you want to be the best player. You got to develop that other gear, that other way to score, because they're not going to allow you to score.
And he's got to do
the
it
way
now.
You've been scoring in the regular season.
He's got to do it now. You got a month and a half left in the season. You got to do it now, and you got to trust your teammate. Here's the problem I see with Giannis. Giannis is a fabulous basketball player. Giannis is a fabulous athlete. Unlike the other athletes I mentioned, Giannis actually knows how to play a little basketball. This is the key for Giannis. Giannis must trust his teammates, and his teammates need to step up. And unfortunately, I don't see it. The regular season title is Milwaukee's to lose. They're going to run away with the regular season Eastern Conference title and the top seed in the East like they had last year. But the playoffs happen, and strange things happen in the postseason. Just ask the Portland Trailblazers.
Yes. right. Yeah, you're right about Milwaukee.
Just ask the Portland Trailblazers, and for that matter, just ask the Milwaukee Bucks last year.
Yep. Last year, top seed in the East again last year, and Toronto figured them out.
They roared out to a 2-0 lead. They roared out to a 2-0 lead. They win the first two in Milwaukee. But then Nick Nurse figured out a trick. Send a posse after Giannis and keep him out of the paint. If he makes it into the paint, make him earn it from the free throw line. Pack the paint, send a posse after him.
Yep. Don't let him get those dunks and those layups, those easy transition points. You pack the paint. And they had a guy named Kawhi Leonard who kind of stepped up and kept them on lock. But they packed the paint. They sent other guys, Siakam. They sent Ibaka. They just sent bodies at him.
Lengthy bodies.
As you said,
lengthy bodies.
Length. Yes, and he didn't trust his team, which goes back to his teammates, as you said. Do you trust Chris Middleton? Do you trust Lopez?
I
Eric
don't.
Bledsoe. Can they? No,
I
don't.
I don't.
Knock shots down.
I'll trust them in the first two rounds. If they see either Boston or Toronto, forget it. I'm sorry, but you're talking about the two most complete teams in the East right now. And yes, Milwaukee is getting all the wins. Yes, Giannis is the runaway choice for most valuable player, at least in my eyes he is. But we're talking about two teams flying under the radar in the East, and the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors, and in some cases, the Indiana Pacers.
Yes. Don't forget about the Pacers.
Don't forget about basketball, and my wife's going to love NBA basketball in Indianapolis, Indiana, because these guys are playing hard. The Miami Heat are playing hard.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's the team. That's the dangerous team right there, the Miami Heat. Getting Andre Iguodala with Jimmy Butler and all those young horses they got, shooters and guys that could play defense and run the floor, and then Jimmy Butler. My goodness, that's a team that's flying on the radar. But I wanted to get back to the Celtics though, because you definitely they're a dangerous team. And Jason Tatum, I was watching something last night. I think it was I don't know, the Sports Center, but they were talking about Tatum. He gets it now. He's getting it right now. Actually, it was PTI. PTI, Will Bonin was saying Tatum gets it. And remember, like we were just saying earlier, 2 years ago, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals without Kyrie Irving.
They're 12 minutes away from winning the thing. They're 12 minutes away from unseating the Cleveland Cavaliers. Somehow the Cavaliers figured it out. Jason Tatum gets it. Jaylen Brown gets it. And the best move the Boston Celtics made was signing Kemba Walker.
Yes. So they got a team up and down. That's a team. I mean, yes, they don't have that. They don't have that legit big man, but they're a dangerous team. They are very, like you said, Kemba Walker and Jaylen Brown. He really stepped up, and Tatum he's developing to that superstar level. He's getting it. He's getting it. So now they've had taste of the playoffs. They've been in the playoffs the last couple of years. So yeah, they're going to be tough too. Very tough.
And here's another thing. You know, since we're talking playoffs, which a lot of people expect me to do, and I do, they just don't pay attention. And I kid when I say that. Boston and Toronto and maybe Miami are the three most complete teams in the Eastern Conference right now. I can't say the same about Milwaukee because it's all about Giannis. I don't trust Chris Middleton I trust. Here's how I feel about Chris Middleton. Great basketball player. Yes. Running mate of Giannis. Yes. He's starting to get it. But will he get it after April 15th?
That's the question. Yes. That's a good question because, you know, he's paid as a all-star caliber player.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time to step it up and be that second guy, that trusted second guy, which you need in the playoffs, as we know from back in the day, Jordan and Pippen, Shaq and Kobe, you know,
the Splash Brothers.
And KD.
The Splash Brothers.
So even
Cheeks
before
and
KD,
Cheeks and Tony, the Cheeks and Tony, the Bad Boys, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish.
Yeah. Does Giannis have that second guy? And Middleton has to be the second guy for them to get far and to where they want to go in the championship.
So as far as ratings go, until we see the full return of the Splash Brothers, a healthy return of the Splash Brothers, the ratings are going to be in the tank because you don't have that one team. Love them or hate them, you want to see what they do every night. For me, it's not the Lakers. For me, it's other teams like the Boston Celtics, like the Portland Trail Blazers. Can they get it right and find a way to sneak into the playoffs? Can the San Antonio Spurs get it right? Or will their 23-year playoff streak end this year? There's so many intriguing questions. There's so many intriguing questions outside of Los Angeles. And the Lakers had, excuse me, when the free agent deadline, the trade deadline, I beg your pardon, when the trade deadline came and went, and not a whimper from Lakertown, there are two indictments I make against that team on that day. They had a chance to sign two All-Stars, one of which is a regular season MVP. The other was a World Championship Series MVP. The regular season MVP they had a chance to sign in a trade was Derrick Rose.
Yep.
And the Finals MVP was Andre Iguodala.
Yes. And if they would have got one of those guys, which they need because their depth is not as good as they thought it was anyway.
Nope.
Yeah, Derrick Rose, I was saying it before, you need another guy that can handle the ball. Who is, you said, a former MVP.
It's a former MVP and a former Finals MVP was there for the taking.
For the taking.
They were there for the taking.
Yes, and if they would have got one of those two guys, I would say, okay, Lakers, okay, you got LeBron AD, you got Andre Iguodala, who's been to finals, who's won a Finals MVP, and you got a Derrick Rose who, you know, the big what if, could have got to a finals, but won an MVP at such a young age, who can handle the ball, who has playoff experience, good success playoff experience as well.
Yeah, and I think Derrick Rose got screwed in 2011. Him and the Bulls got screwed in 2011.
Yes, they did.
Finally, somebody that actually knows what I'm talking about. Let's go back to 2011. Derrick Rose and the Bulls blow out Miami in Game 1 of the East Finals. Up 7 at the end of 1 in Game 2, and you think, okay, this is another rout. And then the whistles come out. Then Derrick Rose gets injured. They lose Omer Ashik for the remainder of the series. And when we go down to Miami, tied 1 game apiece, not one doggone whistle in the Bulls' favor. Not one.
Yep.
They got screwed. They got royally screwed because my theory is they wanted to put LeBron in the World Championship Series and not an actual team in the World Championship Series.
Yep. I totally agree. I remember that. I remember that series, man, because with Derrick Rose, playing, and the Bulls were just they were destined to get to the finals.
They were the better team.
They were the better team. They were the better team, and they got, like you said, they got royally screwed on that year, and they just couldn't recover. And that's another thing with the ratings too. The bad referee. That's in all sports, but the officiating has been very, very skeptical, very bad. Football, NBA, college basketball, whatever, all across the board, there's been a lot of bad officiating. I don't mean to knock on the officials, but there's been a lot of bad officiating.
We'll close with this note. Last Sunday, when the Celtics and the Lakers played in the Staples Center, and I still wish at times it was the Forum, but I digress, Jason Tatum got whistled for an offensive foul that should not have been called. Jason Tatum got whistled for an offensive foul that should not have been called.
Right.
That should not have been called. And if you want to look at the footage very carefully, Jason Tatum got fouled.
He did.
That should have been 3 free throws.
Yep. He got fouled. He got fouled. So it goes to show why people are turning against the NBA, because part of it is the officiating is not as top notch as it used to be.
And I don't like that. I don't like that. That's Courtney Harden, the man in charge of The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. Tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter at Get the Real Deal is the show page there on Twitter. You can hit me up on Twitter at Courtney110979. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. The show airs on Spreaker.com/BS3Radio. Shout out to Ben Sutter of BS3 Radio for for running BS3 Radio. So yeah, you can find it there. Show airs on Saturdays, noon, 12:30, 1, somewhere in between there, and always have great guests. So yeah, definitely hit me up and give it a listen.
Well, I'd like to make that show a part of Snowman Digital Media as well, if you'll have it.
I appreciate that. Definitely. I definitely would love that.
Now, before you go, I have 2 presents for you. The last time Courtney and I talked, he was on Cloud 9 over Lincoln Financial Field because his beloved Eagles shocked the world and shocked me and beat the Patriots, even though I officially picked the Eagles. There's a song I said I'd play for him, and the song kind of sounds like this.
There it is, that song. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! All I can do is laugh.
Since you recognize that one, I know you'll recognize this.
appreciate that. What a way to end the show, right?
This has been a series of startling contrasts, from the friendships off the court to the fierce hostility on it. We've witnessed the youthful exuberance of the challengers and the poise of the champions. There's been hardship and pain, but not enough to overcome sheer guts and determination. These two teams have fought each other to a standstill, and tonight their destiny will be determined. It's just a question of who can endure this final hurdle. The Lakers hope to repeat history tonight, while the Pistons hope to make some. A championship is at stake, and only one team's prayers can be answered.
I love it.
And before I let you go, do you remember when it was called the World Championship Series? When CBS had the NBA contract instead of this NBA Finals stuff? It just, you know what? It just doesn't seem that prestigious anymore when it's called the NBA Finals. Bring it back to what it was originally called, the NBA World Championship Series. Oh, man. Courtney Harden joining me for a terrific conversation. I told you we were going to go off the rails, but we did some truth-telling as well. Thanks a lot, my friend. I truly appreciate the time. I love you. I got to have you back on soon.
Yes, thank you, man. Anytime. Whenever we could get together, we always do what we do, man. We just, like you said, we tell the truth, and that's what it's about.
and that has to return to sports talk, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, buddy.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what? I did not need to be told that.
Well, folks, down the stretch we come in the NBA. There's about, I'd say, a little over a month and a half left. But we still have some questions to answer. And to help me do that is the man in charge of Around the Association, Danny Thompson, now joins me. How are you, my friend?
Good. What's up, Brian? How's everything going for you, sir?
Everything is great as we are coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. Got a bit of an assignment to do. I'll explain more a little later, so I'll be in Charlotte for the week. All right, let's do this. Let's start in the East. Pick a team that everyone's ballyhooing, but you see so many holes in their game that they could be ousted early in the playoffs.
We're talking the Philadelphia 76ers. It's kind of crazy. A week ago, we were just talking about, the Sixers can make a run. Now Ben Simmons' back goes out, and the Sixers are in serious trouble because they didn't acquire a point guard at the deadline.
Yep.
Nothing against Raul Neto or anybody that looks like a point guard, but now Josh Richardson has to take a bigger role as the lead guard. And, Embiid has a little bit of a shoulder issue right now, but right now, the most important thing is I think Embiid will be fine when we get towards April and we get into the playoffs. But if Ben Simmons isn't healthy, and back injuries, as you know, Brian, are not exactly the easiest thing to diagnose.
Oh, no.
Because it can be tricky from here to here, point A to point B. The Sixers are the team that's most in danger. But before Simmons' back went out, I thought Indiana was in trouble too.
Yeah, but Indiana is a surprise, competing in the East. What do you think of their chances once the playoffs begin?
Well, Jeremy Lamb's season in the injury might have changed a lot of things in Indiana because, Jeremy Lamb was one of those guys that was brought in to help get Victor Oladipo's transition back after being out for an entire year. It's just to ease that transition. Now without Jeremy Lamb, who was expected to be your sixth man when Oladipo became completely healthy and looking like himself, now that means the Holiday brothers are going to have to take bigger roles. And they played well. They played solid in the times that Oladipo was out and also when Malcolm Brogdon this time. But you're now asking the Holiday brothers to do more. And, Jeremy Lamb is one of the better rebounding guards in the league that people don't really realize. He's one of the better rebounders. And not to have him on the floor is going to hurt. I mean, like I said, Victor's not back to being Victor yet. We're hoping that he'll round into form in the next 6 weeks, but Indiana could be in trouble and could be one of those teams where I thought they can cause damage, but they might not get out of the first round either.
Yeah, and the depth really took a hit with the injury to Jeremy Lamb.
It did.
How about a couple of other teams? Who's flying under the radar right now?
Well, as much as people don't want to realize or want to say this, I know it's flying under the radar is kind of interesting, is the Boston Celtics. We all have watched Milwaukee just obliterate everybody they've gotten their hands on this year. With 51-8 right now. Toronto's playing outstanding basketball, and it seems like Pascal Siakam's getting better and better every single day. Fred VanVleet is ready to take over Kyle Lowry's position another year or so as that bulldog, that guy down the stretch. But people aren't talking about the Boston Celtics, even though Jason Tatum is putting himself up there saying, hey, I'm this good. And the one thing about the Celtics is that they're doing this without Kemba Walker being healthy.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to say it might have been, now you're playing the what-if game, but, man, did they even really need Kemba Walker? And that's saying something when you have you have an all-star in Kemba Walker, but the Celtics are just as good without him as they are with him.
They're
flying under the radar. If they can figure out how to put Kemba Walker in this thing, they have just as good a chance as anybody to beat Milwaukee in the playoff series.
That is a scary, scary concept. That's very scary that they can be that good, A, for a time without Gordon Hayward, and B, now without Kemba Walker. And the Boston Celtics are still playing very well. Do they have an outside chance to snatch a number 2 seed from Toronto?
I don't. 2 and 3 in the East don't really mean much. I really don't think, because to be honest with you, 2 and 3 might mean a game 7 at home in a second round playoff series against the other team. But I think Boston is just as good enough to walk into Toronto and beat the Raptors just the same way as Toronto is good enough to beat Boston on their home floor in game 7. I really, the most important thing is if you have a chance to get it, go get it. Boston has that ability to do it. I don't think Boston is that pressed, to be honest with you. I think they're more concerned about who are they going to play in the playoffs more than getting that second seed, because to be honest with you, I don't know. I'd rather play a more banged up Indiana team than they have to deal with Joel Embiid in the first round, or potentially if I can catch 2, that means I get my hands on Orlando.
Yeah.
And I know I can beat Orlando.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so very true. So who's the first round? Who finally gets that 8 seed and becomes the first round snack for Milwaukee?
It's Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn is a 500 team without Kyrie Irving being healthy. I don't see Washington being consistent enough to catch them. Chicago is a mess.
Yeah.
Even though they have talent galore. Detroit threw the white flag weeks ago, and Charlotte can't seem to get out of their own way in fourth quarters, and they've been getting, and Malik Monk's suspension doesn't help either.
No.
So, and then the rest of the East is what Cleveland, New York, Atlanta. They're not. None of those teams are going to make any type of impact. Like I said, because Chicago, and Washington don't have. Washington's Bradley Beal has been phenomenal, but there's really nothing around him until John Wall gets back. And Chicago, like I said, is a mess. So I think Brooklyn gets it by default.
And it's so sad that the Bulls are a mess right now. It's not the talent on the team; it's the coaching and it's the general manager. It's the management and the coach. It's just a mess.
And not to mention, Wendell Carter Jr. is still out. Mallory Markin has not been healthy. Otto Porter Jr. has only played 6 games this year.
Yeah,
they've dealt with their share of injuries. I'm not going to sit here and say that Garpax and Boylan are not at fault for any of this.
Right.
The Bulls have talent. Kobe White has been scoring 30 points a game off the bench repeatedly for the last 10 days.
Yep.
Zach LaVine is arguably the best player in the league that really nobody knows that really pays attention to, and they have talent. It's just that coaching and health has not been in the Bulls' favor this year.
Yeah, that is so true, and it still angers me that Zach LaVine in my hometown was not elected an All-Star.
I mean, but I think Bradley Beal had a better case than Levine did.
Okay.
And neither one on the All-Star team.
Yeah, true. If anything, both should have been on the All-Star team. Let's go to the West, and we're going to start at the bottom. Who gets the privilege of being the first-round snack for the Lakers?
Here's the thing: the Grizzlies have to get it together. I mean, they didn't look good against Houston, and of course, Houston outshot them. But then last night they won a game. They lost to the Kings in a game they're supposed to win.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's like every day the Pelicans are getting momentum. They blew out the Cavs last night.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to find the rhythm. They're starting to figure out how to make Zion and the two Duke guys, Zion and Brandon Ingram, work. The Duke Blue Devils South, as I call them, because half that roster are Duke Blue Devils.
Right.
With what? Redick, Ingram, Zion. Feels like I'm missing Duke Blue Devils everywhere, but it's like Duke Blue Devils South down there.
Yeah, it is.
They're starting to get it together. And once Brian, watch this. If you start getting momentum and a team starts to slide, there's a stretch of games in the month of March where the Pelicans and the Grizzlies play, I think, 2 times in 3 nights in March.
Yes.
That can change the entire complexion of the playoffs right now. If the Pelicans are still playing good basketball by the time we get that home and home, it could be arguably some of the most entertaining and best basketball we'll see into the playoffs.
Yeah.
New Orleans can catch them.
Yeah, I'm
not sure about Portland. I'm not sure about Portland yet.
I was hoping, Portland is sliding, and it's so horrible because Portland was my wild card pick to snatch that 8 spot. But you're so right about Memphis and New Orleans. They got a home and home coming up in March. And if they split, then it'll be even down the way. But if one team gets both of those games, then you talk about momentum heading into the playoffs. In the middle of that pack in the Western Conference, you got teams like Denver, you got teams like Utah. Look at those two for me, and tell me, what do you see from those two?
So the thing with the Denver Nuggets is people have the impression the Nuggets are the 3rd best team in the West because we talk about the 2 LA teams.
Right.
Denver has just as good a chance to win the West as anybody, and the only difference is that Denver's road to the NBA Finals ironically doesn't go through Nikola Jokic or doesn't go through Jamal Murray. Those 2 guys are established. Mm-hmm. They have great bench scoring with Will Barton, Paul Millsap, Jeremy Grant. Those guys are very versatile. They switch. The thing that's going to hold the key for the Denver Nuggets is Gary Harris. They trade Malik Beasley to Minnesota because he wanted more playing time. They've given Gary Harris his big contract, and for as good a defender he is, his shot's not falling. If Gary Harris goes back to the form where he was hitting 44, 45% 2 years ago and was actually had a good playoff series a couple of years ago, if he gets back to that level, Denver has enough pieces to beat the Lakers. They have enough pieces to beat the Clippers. But Gary Harris is the complete key. In the same way with Utah, the key for Utah is Mike Conley. If Conley goes and finds some health and goes back to the Mike Conley we saw in Memphis when they were making the playoffs, and goes back to being that best player in the league that's never made the All-Star team, and he finds health, the Jazz can beat almost anybody in the West because you have Rudy Gobert down low, and nobody wants to challenge Gobert when he's actually on his game.
True.
You have Donovan Mitchell, who is a fourth-quarter guy. He's streaky at times, but he has the killer instinct. You have guys on the wing who can shoot the basketball, and Bogdanovich and Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles is a good ball handler. And now Royce O'Neal is one of the most underrated defenders in the league. You got all those pieces all around the floor. Mike Conley has to stay healthy. If he stays healthy, the Jazz can make a deep run at this thing. But it really depends on Conley. So like I said, you have 2 X factors, Gary Harris and Mike Conley.
Now let's take a look at a team. You talk about flying under the radar. The Oklahoma City Thunder, who many picked to be at the bottom of the Western Conference, are 14 games over 500. And they're sitting in that number 6 spot. They would draw the Clippers in the first round if the playoffs were to start today.
The one thing about the Thunder is that, like you're right, I didn't have them in the playoffs. I thought Chris Paul would have been gone a long time ago. They would figure out a way to move him somewhere.
Yeah.
But Chris Paul has had we're talking about not just a renaissance season. We're saying Chris Paul should be on the Olympic team. That's how much of a change Chris Paul has made in literally 10 months. He went from being basically a throwaway guy in Houston, a guy that took a lot of the blame for the Rockets not getting there, to leading a Thunder team that was extremely young, that, they had talent, but we didn't think they were going to be that good. He's made Shea Gilgeous-Alexander on that level where you're saying that the Paul George trade isn't one-sided anymore. SGA has become one of the better two guards in the league, even though he's really a point guard. He's made shots easier for Danilo Gallinari. And this team is still winning with Andre Roberson. Now, as far as playoffs go, on Friday night, we saw them play against the Milwaukee Bucks. We talk about an elite team going against the Thunder, and we saw the Thunder get the doors blown off them on Friday night. They can keep up in a playoff series. The thing is, it's all about matchups. I don't think they want to play the Clippers. I think they'd rather play the Nuggets instead of the Clippers. So really, it's can they get their hands on Denver? Because I don't think they'll catch 5. I think honestly, if you have to, I would punt to stay away from Kawhi Leonard as long as possible.
Yeah, I would too. One team we did not look at, a couple of teams we didn't look at. They're both in Texas. Houston at the 4, Dallas at the 7. Let's start in Dallas. They seem to be sliding a little bit in that 7 spot.
You know what, though? It's not really sliding. It's the fact that, like you said, there's a big bunch between, like you said, that 4, that 3 through 7 spot. Even I know Dallas has a chance of catching 3, but the Clippers, that 4 through 7 spot is going to be interchangeable. The thing with the Dallas Mavericks is that they have to find consistency outside of Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis because they're playing some of their best basketball right now.
Right.
Finding that third guy, whether it be Tim Hardaway Jr. to score consistently, whether it be Curry, and finding defense with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. If they can find some consistency out of a third guy on that team, I think Dallas could stay at 4. But don't sleep on the Houston Rockets. I know people laugh at the small ball, PJ Tucker being the 5. But remember, when Houston's hitting 3-point shots, they're almost unbeatable. We saw that the other night against Memphis. If Russell Westbrook is getting to the lane and causing problems, you have shooters galore. And Westbrook is hitting shots. And I know, Brian, you're the biggest Westbrook fan I know. If Russell Westbrook is hitting shots, James Harden's life becomes easier.
True.
If James Harden's life is easier offensively, help us all.
Give you
Just
that.
help us all. If James Harden has an easy offensive life, then it's curtains. Because James Harden's the most, even with people talking about his, how many steps he takes in the basket, other than Giannis, is the most dominant offensive player in the league when he's completely on.
Yeah, but they have to be completely on. Like you said, they have to be completely on. That's our look at the playoff picture with Danny Thompson, the man in charge of Around the Association. Man, it's always a pleasure to have you on. We're going to get consistent with this because I want you on the show to help break down the playoffs and take us through the playoffs as the seeds get set, the teams get set, and we begin our march toward the World Championship Series. Thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Brian. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
I did not need to be told that.
Where true sports talk lives.
Excellent. Can't wait.
Welcome back, folks. Remember, you can check out all the programs hosted by yours truly by logging on to snowmandigitalmedia.com and also follow all of our social media. I haven't done this in a while, so we're going to do it now. Time for Transition Tuesdays, coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. And Russ Williams is now on the hotline with me. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Snowman. Appreciate you.
Now, you brought a subject to me that sounded very, very interesting. Microball. And for those of you who haven't followed the NBA this year, Russell Westbrook signed with the Rockets. We don't know why. Clint Capella got traded from the Rockets. We still don't know why. And the Rockets think they can win with this small ball, a.k.a. microball. Russ Williams, the floor is yours.
Yes, this microball. I heard somebody say now the Rockets are now they should now be called the Pocket Rockets because they're so small. I happen to like that term. That's pretty cool. But yeah, these guys. I mean, the Rockets gonna they're playing this micro ball, this small ball, and it got me thinking about some game plan steps, some GPSs that they got to take when they're transitioning to the small ball. And the first GPS I've had for the audience out there is the Rockets have to stick to the analytical game plan. Their theory is more threes and less twos. And they believe in the philosophy of big guys, they clog the lanes and they don't create driving lanes to the basket. So now you have a Russell Westbrook who is leading the NBA for guards and the most points in the paint this year. So he's going to be there attacking the basket because you don't have the big guys clogging the post. And also, Harden, he's going to have to create for himself and others. And with him, his big thing is he has to get to the free throw line. So he has to average 15 free throws a game night for them to be successful. So that's the first GPS. They got to stick to the analytical game. The GM believes in the analytics, and they just got to stick to that analytical game plan.
Right.
Second GPS is they have to gang rebound. Now, I know P.J. Tucker, he's the tallest guy now at 6'6", and I don't think he's even that soaking wet. I think he's more like close to 6'4". But he's 6'6", I don't know. These guys stretch that
Listen,
in the NBA. I don't know what's going on.
P.J. Tucker ain't Charles Barkley, okay? At least I can believe that Charles Barkley is 6'6", okay? Because Barkley played like it, and he was one of the most fierce rebounders in the game.
Absolutely, yep. And Barkley is 6'6". I got a chance to meet him. He is 6'6", all 6'6" too. The height and width.
Yep.
Definitely a lot of width. But P.J. Tucker is not that. And the Lakers, I was getting the Lakers, I'm sorry. But the Rockets, they got a gang rebound. They have to, everybody has to gang rebound. Everybody has to chip in, from the biggest to the smallest guy. They got a gang rebound. But the Rockets really need another player besides P.J. Tucker. He does all the dirty work. So somebody has to emerge out of that group. Somebody has to be the ultimate garbage man, like Fred G. Sanford. Remember Sanford from Sanford and Son there, Snowman?
Boy, do I ever remember that show.
The ultimate junk man, right?
Yes.
That's what the Rockets need. They need somebody besides the P.J. Tucker to be that guy who does the ultimate dirty work, the ultimate garbage man.
And that's willing to give some people taller than them 5 across their lips, right?
That's right. Hey, Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. So yeah, they need that ultimate garbage man. But as collectively as a group, they have to gang rebound to get this done. And then the third GPS is a third scorer has to emerge out of this group. Either it's going to be Robert Covington or Eric Gordon, Daniel House, or Austin Rivers. One of these guys have to emerge as a third scorer. They're not going to be able to get it done with two people, with Westbrook and Harden. They're going to get theirs. They're going to get their points. They're going to create for others. They're going to do that. But somebody else has to emerge from that. And I think out of the person that emerges, that person's going to have a career playoff run in them. They're going to have to play out of their minds for this to work, for this small ball, this micro ball to work.
You're basically asking the Rockets to invert what they did in 1986. And they built around their twin towers, Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson. And a third scorer had to emerge in the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers. And that third scorer, of course, was Robert Reed. Who do you think would be the Robert Reed of this ragtag bunch?
I think out of this group, if healthy, Eric Gordon has to be the guy. He has to be the guy. He's a proven guy, a proven scorer, but he has to remain healthy. So I think out of that bunch, he has to be the guy to emerge. And really, he has to average 20-plus in order for it to work at all. And, the thing about this particular system, this micro ball, the small ball is, it's going to work during the regular season. It's entertaining. The fans like it. It'll work. It'll get you 50-some games.
Yep.
But I think it's going to be tested during a playoff run on the playoff series. And I'm willing to bet you too, Snowman, if the Rockets don't get to the Western Conference Finals, then Tony will be let go. Because I think they're going to just end this experiment. And I think that'll be done with the small ball and his style of play. So a lot is riding on this.
It was a failed experiment when they brought D'Antoni aboard in the first place, and you got rid of Kevin McHale, who preached defense. And the other problem that I have with this micro ball, they're trying to copy the team that beat them in 4 straight playoff series. And that team, of course, is the Golden State Warriors. Because remember, they went small ball when they dubbed the Splash Brothers. But here's the problem with the Rockets playing small ball versus the Warriors playing micro ball. The Warriors knew what they were doing. The Warriors had the correct pieces in place. Because remember, even though they were playing small ball and shooting a lot of threes, there was a guy named Andrew Bogut. There was another guy named Kevin Durant. There's a guy there now by the name of Draymond Green. And I got 2 big rumors.
That's right.
I got 2 big pieces that could join the Warriors after this off season. And I'm going to talk about that next in the rumor mills. There are 2 big men. I'm teasing this right now. There are 2 big men.
All right, I got to listen. I got to listen to that.
You got to hear the 2 big men that one of these 2, I really feel, will join the Warriors next year. And the Warriors are going to rise to the top next year anyway, even if they get neither of these 2 big men, because Klay Thompson will be back, Steph Curry will be back. They're going to be virtually injury-free, and they're going to land 2 they're going to land 2 players to play in their correct spots. But as far as Houston goes, them getting rid of Kevin McHale in 2015 was a mistake, because Kevin McHale actually had them playing defense. And since Kevin McHale has been let go, the Rockets have been giving up north of 110 points per game over the course of 4 years. So this D'Antoni experiment needs to have the Rockets come out of the West, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. You know, D'Antoni, he coached my beloved Knicks. I mean, just ran that into a muck there. You know, I know we didn't have the personnel to meet his standards of play. I understand that. I confess to that. But, you know, these experiments, I mean, I don't think it's going to work. I definitely don't think it's going to work for a playoff series with the Houston Rockets. And I think, you know, going forward, we're going to see, like, if, you know, when this experiment does go awry and they break down this, I'm anxious to see how Harden is during this situation, because is he a product of that system? You know, just the dribble and the isolation, and, you know, he scores points, or maybe we'll get a chance to see, you know, if Harden is the player that he claims he is, and that we see on a daily basis as well.
Harden is not the player he claims to be. Klay Thompson has proven that 4 times. Stephen Curry has proven that 4 times. Draymond Green has proven that 4 times. It's a product. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll happily say it. But it's a product of a system that has been broken for a while, because when the Warriors went small, they broke the mold.
Yeah, they definitely did. And now you got the Greek Freak calling out James Harden. You know, this might be some 90s beef. You know, we might have to transition to some 90s beef, the way the Greek Freak was getting at James Harden, saying that, hey, you know, during that All-Star game, they just said, hey, whoever James Harden is going at, we're going to, you know, who's guarding him, we're just going to go at him, you know, and he didn't pick him for his team for the All-Star game. And then you have James Harden comes back and say, like, you know, I play with a lot of skill level. The Greek Freak, all he is 7 feet and he dunks. You know, there's no skill level to that. So we might have to come back next week and talk about the transition to 90s beef.
And you know
like
something?
A 90s beef type of deal.
You know what? You just gave one of our 2 subjects that we'll have for the next Transition Tuesday. The transition back to 90s beef, number 1. But number 2, I can squash that beef by saying this. There's a lot of skill with Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's not a lot of skill with James Harden. When you're allowed to flop all over the floor, walk all over the floor, and shoot as many threes as Harden is allowed to shoot, and D'Antoni allows this. You know, he coached your Knicks.
Yes.
He allows this. There is no reining in with D'Antoni. There lies the problem.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you. You know, he doesn't stress defense at all. It's like, matter of fact, I think I think did he write a book like scoring in like 6 seconds? I mean, they try to
7
take like 6
seconds
to
or
7
less.
seconds to score.
Yep, 7 seconds or
Yep,
less.
7 seconds or less.
And
no
you know
post
what?
Play,
None. You know a coach that he's trying to emulate that had that kind of success? Does the name Paul Westhead
I
mean
know what
anything?
you're gonna say. I know who you're gonna say, Snowman. Are you gonna talk about Don Nelson?
Not just Don Nelson. Not just Don Nelson.
Okay.
Does the name Paul Westhead mean anything to you? Because Paul Westhead played that same style in 1980 with the Lakers, got him a world championship. He also brought it to Loyola Marymount in 1990.
Right.
And were it not for one of my favorite college coaches of all time, a fellow we like to call Jerry the Shark Tarkanian, then Loyola Marymount. Yep, and Loyola Marymount would have written a different finish. But when you run into a coach that plays the same style you do, but also offers big men that can shoot, Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, Moses Scurry, David Butler, and then team them up with when you find people that play the correct positions and have them in the correct system, you're going to succeed. Just ask Mark Jackson. Just ask Steve Kerr. That they were both coaches of the Warriors. And a lot of people say, well, you need to give Mark Jackson his credit for building that team, and I do. But Steve Kerr pushed the right buttons. The button he pushed, this is what Kerr does not get a lot of credit for. The button he pushed was to convince Andre Iguodala to come off the bench and not be a scorer. Mark Jackson gets the first vote of confidence from me when he was bold enough to start Draymond Green in a playoff series. But at the same time, Andre Iguodala coming off the bench was a benefit to Golden State. This is not the benefit. These are one of the benefits I'm not seeing with this lineup in Houston.
Yeah, that's true. And, speaking of Steve Kerr, I think the best move that he didn't make was signing with the Knicks. He had an opportunity to sign with the Knicks first.
He did. He met with the Knicks and he met with the Warriors. He met with the Knicks and he met with the Warriors, and then he saw all the smoke and mirrors with James Dolan and company and said, nah, I'm going out west. I'm good. 3 championships in 6 seasons later, Steve Kerr has ruled the roost. He's ruled the roost.
Absolutely.
He has ruled the roost, man.
And my beloved Knicks are just pitiful, but that might be a conversation we might have to transition to the 90s and the 1970s, 69s.
Willis Reed coming out of Willis Reed coming out of the tunnel with Charles Schenkel describing how he's jogging out of the tunnel. Yeah, I brought Charles Schenkel back into the conversation. Of course, Charles Schenkel, the fabulous voice of ABC when they had one of the original NBA contracts. Russ Williams joining me for Transition Tuesday. The Rockets transitioning to microball. What do you guys think? Tweet the show at SNW Digital Media. Thanks a lot for coming on, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Can I give my social media?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Go ahead.
All right, great. I could be followed on Instagram at rwilltransitions with an S. You can always friend me on Facebook at Russ Williams. And also, I'm part of a new podcast, which is the Russ and Kayla Nice Experience. And you can see that on all different podcast platforms. And Snowman, I am giving you an invitation to come on the show. Would love to talk to you on the show and have you on the show and return the favor, Snowman.
You got it. You absolutely got it. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
More stuff in a flash. So I decided to bring William Morgan back so we can talk some NBA and end this show the right way, with the playoffs looming, with all these. Hell, I'm going to go ahead and say it. All these bronzexuals are getting on my nerve now, right?
No, he didn't say that.
I didn't come up with the term. Someone else came up with the term for me.
Yes, someone else did.
Someone else, one of my dearest friends, came up with the term. But these bronzexuals are getting on my nerve.
They're getting on my nerves. Yes, the Lakers are first in the West. Yes, LeBron is having a great season. But will y'all get it right? He's not carrying that team. Anthony Davis is.
And I think another thing that sort of kind of sticks out about that Lakers organization to me, they are so, how can I say, gung-ho for trying to win a title.
Now.
They're bringing in the ultimate head case, Dion Waiters. Now, if that don't tell you something, nothing will.
You mean to tell me that a proud franchise like the Los Angeles Lakers, they're going to take a risk on Dion Waiters?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
That's the story that I saw. That's the story that I saw today. And also, they released someone to make a roster spot available. So if they want to sign him, they can truly sign him.
And you know something? Someone just got this to my attention. Matter of fact, my wife just put this up on the screen for me. You know who else is working out for them?
Who?
J.R. Smith.
See. They're trying to be. They're trying to be Cavs West. That's what they're trying to be. They're trying to be Cavs West.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Now watch Cleveland buy Kevin Love and Kevin Love go over to the Lakers. I'm telling you, man.
Oh yeah,
man.
They're all in. They're all in to win now, and they're going to have the oldest team on the floor. Here's my problem. There were two players out there at the trade deadline that they had a chance to snatch and didn't do it. And those two players were Derrick Rose and Andre Iguodala, a former MVP and a former Finals MVP. And they went after neither of them. Why?
Because management didn't want to part ways with Kuzma. They overvalue Kuzma. And the thing that kills me, outside of scoring, what is Kuzma bringing to the table?
Not a damn thing.
Outside of scoring, he's not locking anybody up on defense.
Nope.
He's not getting a lot of rebounds. He's not getting a lot of assists. All he's going to do is score. Ain't a bad shot he don't like. He'll come down the floor. He's not even trying to initiate the offense. He'll shoot a three. He'll jack a three up. And whether he make it or miss it, he'll run back down the court all proud of himself. No. And the rumor has it, teams also wanted Danny Green, and the Lakers didn't want to give up both players. So,
that whole Laker team is a head case.
And the team still suffers from its primary issue. They don't have a bona fide outside shooter. They don't have a consistent outside shooter.
That's not the only issue. That's not the only issue. The biggest issue. Their main issue is an issue they've had for 2 years. No point guard.
Yeah. That too. Exactly. That too.
They've had no point guard for 2 seasons, depending on the experience of Rajon Rondo to get them to June. Why?
Rondo gives effort. I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't. He gives effort.
I'll give you that.
But he's not considered in terms of having a consistent jump shot. He's gonna be he could be a liability on defense. Particularly if they play someone like a Denver. Jamal Murray can just go to town on him. And I just think that between no point guard, LeBron playing those types of minutes that he's playing, and no consistent outside shooting,
none.
Oh, the Lakers are going to be in trouble. And people look at the Clippers and say, they're malcontents. But when you look at what they're doing they've won 8 straight when they've had a healthy roster.
Yep.
So they have the perimeter defenders. Zubac will be good enough on the inside to at least slow down AD. He won't stop him, but he'll at least slow him down.
Yeah.
They got the perimeter people to stop LeBron. I just like the Clippers. And if the Lakers don't watch it, Denver can give them a run for their money.
Not only can Denver give them a run for their money, Memphis can give them a run for their money.
I love Ja Morant. Yes, I respect what Zion has been doing. He's a huge fan of. A lot of people, are looking at him, and he's playing great basketball. But let's look at Zion's game right now. Outside of a couple of threes here and there, he's playing within 4 or 5 feet, and
which to me presents this problem. His footwork has been exposed.
Yeah, and it doesn't help either that he's a tweener.
Exactly.
It doesn't help him at all that he's a tweener. The one thing about Larry Johnson, a player who he is compared to a lot of the times, he was a 6'7", 6'8" true small forward.
That he was.
You look at Zion, he's a tweener, and while he is big, he is strong, but on the other end, does he have the footwork on defense to stop opposing small forwards?
And my answer is no.
Mm-hmm. He's going to be going up against the LeBrons. He's going to be going up against the Kawhi Leonards. He's going to be going up against the Jimmy Butlers. And yes, he'll cause havoc on the other end maybe, but on the defensive end, he doesn't have the footwork to stay with anyone on the perimeter.
And not only does he not have the footwork, he doesn't have the conditioning either.
Mm-mm.
He cannot get up and down the floor.
That time that he was recovering from that energy really, really hurt him. Not only did it hurt him from his development, but it also hurt him from the standpoint of learning how to play, moving your feet, getting your defensive getting your defensive bearings about you on how to attack certain players, and on the defensive end, and that hurt him as well. He's going to have to be a better defender, and he's also going to have to come up with a consistent jump shot. If you give him a mid-range game, mid-range on down, he should be fine. But if he never picks up that mid-range game, eventually he's going to have trouble.
He's got trouble now. And a lot of people love saying to me, "Oh, well, you have to give him a chance." I have given him a chance. This is where I lie with Zion Williamson. He's a fantastic athlete. And people who know this sentence coming from me knows I've said this before about one LeBron James. It goes like this. He's a fantastic athlete. He's not a good basketball player.
Yeah.
Ja Morant is a fantastic athlete, and he's a good basketball player that can only get better.
He's a complete basketball player,
that
too.
He
Let's
is.
not forget to say that.
Yeah.
Let's not forget to say that, too.
He is.
But it's going to be interesting to see if Zion will figure things out, because he's got so much working against him right now. And he's in New Orleans. Someone who has people from that area in his family, that food down there is no joke. You're going to have to stay away from the jambalaya and things like that to keep his weight under control. That's going to be a constant issue with them.
Yeah.
And if you go, and if I'm not mistaken, I remember him in college. Does it look to you and it may be because of the injury, does it look to you that he lost some explosiveness between college and now?
Yep.
That wasn't just me. Okay.
No, it wasn't just you. It wasn't just you. I saw that. People don't want to acknowledge that.
Right.
People do not want to acknowledge that since that injury that occurred at Cameron Indoor Stadium against North Carolina, He's lost a lot, including his explosiveness.
It's going to be interesting to see what he can do to make up for a lot of this stuff. Remember, Larry Johnson was on sort of kind of like the same path. But once his back injury occurred,
it derailed him.
Yeah, it derailed him big time. But before that point, outside of LJ not being able to shoot the three ball, you had no issues with Larry Johnson in terms of an athlete or a basketball player.
Exactly. Zion is one major injury, and he already had one, because when he blew out of his shoe at Duke, it cost him two injuries, one to his foot and the other to his knee.
Yeah.
That messed him up, and I believe it's going to mess him up for a while until he gets some weight off of him. This is from a guy who has struggled with weight most of his life. I know how it feels. I'm very empathetic when it comes to Zion Williamson. Okay? But at the same time, he's got to chop some weight. And my contention is, and Gilbert Arenas was the first to say this, and I saw this in an online interview, Zion Williamson's playing out of position.
Yeah.
He is too heavy, and nothing against Zion. I mean, I'll say it again. He's a fantastic athlete. People want to know my thoughts? Here they are. He's a fantastic athlete. Okay? But I believe he should be a shooting guard. If he ever develops great footwork, takes off some weight, and a consistent jump shot, he'll be one of the most dangerous shooting guards outside of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson in the league.
Yeah. Because there's physical gifts. Yeah, that is true.
I mean, he'd be a version of Scottie Pippen if he ever develops a jump shot and takes off some weight.
I also think that Brandon Ingram needs to show up more. It just can't be Zion Love for that team to be successful.
Exactly.
Ingram has to show up. What's that?
Exactly.
He's going to have to show up more. Alonzo Ball's going to have to show up more. Other people on that team are going to have to come up with some big-time performances if they're going to take over that 8 spot from Memphis.
And it cannot be just Drew Holiday and Zion Williamson. Have you noticed with New Orleans that since Zion has come onto the floor, everybody else has taken a step back?
Yeah, everybody's taking the back seat, and that can't happen.
No.
That can't happen.
That can't happen. And it shouldn't be happening. Yeah, Zion is the centerpiece, and I wish nothing but the best for him. Okay? But at the same time, everybody on that team, Zion included, is going to have to make some changes and step up their game. And so far they haven't.
Right. He changes the game because defenses rather focus on stopping him. He's changed the game that way. But on the other end, how you making your teammates better? Where are your assist numbers to go along with the points and the rebounds? How are you making your teammates better? That's my issue with them. Ja doesn't have that.
No.
Ja doesn't have that issue because Ja can see the whole floor.
Ja is wonderful at seeing the floor. Ja is absolutely fantastic at seeing the floor. And since we're talking about who's the runaway rookie of the year, it's Ja Morant, and it's not even close. How about another race that's not even close? And that's the most valuable player award. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo and nobody else. Period.
Nope. Giannis, and that's it. Giannis, and that's it.
And people want to put LeBron in this MVP conversation. I don't think so. He's lost a step. He's lost a shot. I mean, he's doing everything he can to will his Lakers into the NBA World Championship Series. But it's only March. You got to get through April and May before you get to June.
They talked about this earlier today on Undisputed. And the one thing that was interesting about Giannis He leads the league in PER and defensive win shares.
Yes.
So if you lead the league in offense and defense, it's kind of tough not to give it to him.
Yeah.
Now the narrative would be different with LeBron because he's such a media darling and people love this and people love that. Like the interview he gave today, where he told people they can kiss it behind. The media just ate that up.
They did. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
But outside of the narrative, Giannis has been the best on the floor.
Mm-hmm. He's been absolutely the best on the floor. He's the runaway MVP, and no one else should get consideration, especially not LeBron.
Right.
Here's the other point. Giannis, yes, I will give Giannis the MVP right now, but I don't trust Milwaukee coming out of the East.
I think the issue with Milwaukee, they don't have another superstar on that squad. Yes, they have Chris Middleton, solid star type player.
Very.
But they don't have another superstar on that roster that can really help them win.
Right.
You see that in Boston. You see that somewhat in Toronto. You don't see that with Milwaukee. And if Giannis were to go down for some reason, Milwaukee may still end up being a playoff team because you're playing in the East. But in the West,
not a chance.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Not going to do it.
Not a chance at all.
And I would love to see them to get a second superstar there because again, Chris Middleton's very, very good. No slight to Chris, but he's just not that superstar player, and that may come back to bite Milwaukee.
One more point before we close up shop for the day. I put out on social media that